There are 43 racetracks in the state of Iowa, second only in the United States to Pennsylvania. And the focus today will be on Iowa Speedway. Located about 30 miles east of Des Moines and surrounded by acres of Iowa corn, IndyCar drivers know it's a tough test to reach the infield of dreams as the victor. At 7/8 of a mile, this is the shortest lap of the IndyCar season. But 300 laps over confined quarters offers a daunting challenge, especially with 21 drivers fighting for the same piece of real estate at over 180 miles an hour. J.R. Hildebrand survived a scare yesterday and battled back for his first ever front row start. Today he looks for the first win of his career, racing for a team that has won here before. That team is led by oval specialist Ed Carpenter. The Indy native, who will start right behind Hildebrand, is in search of his first win since 2014. Joseph Newgarden won last year's race for Ed Carpenter Racing, but now he drives for Team Penske, who surprisingly has not won here in 10 races. In order to do so, Newgarden will have to charge from 16th on the grid. But Newgarden will have company in the form of current Verizon Series points leader Scott Dixon. Starting 17th, the driver known as the Iceman will have to remain cool in order to avoid a big points loss. And the driver looking for a big points gain is Penske pole sitter Will Power. The Aussie native won the last oval race in Texas, and another win today could put him right back in the championship race. Welcome to IndyCar Live, presented by Verizon, where in less than 45 minutes, the green flag will drop on this 300-lap race. Well, it is hot today, maybe record temperatures for this event, now moving in its second decade, but the good news is we have no chance of rain. Now, we've hit July now, we're right in the middle of summer, and we're starting to think about the run to the championship. There are only 7 races remaining, 3 like this one on ovals, 4 more on road and street courses. And when we talk about most recently, Road America, that's the longest course of the season, over 4 miles in length. Now we come to the shortest stretch of the season and the shortest track. Just 7/8 of a mile is what we're going to be facing here at Iowa Speedway. And as far as a team standpoint, well, this race has been dominated by Andretti Autosport. They've won 7 of the 10. They struggled last year. Will they bounce back this year? And Team Penske, they've been quick here. Many think the Chevys are going to have a supreme advantage. They are starting first for the 6th time in 11 races, but they've not won this event. We'll talk more about that a little later on. Some other storylines, certainly J.R. Hildebrand. He's in the car that won this race last year, the 21 for Ed Carpenter Racing, but he crashed in practice. Came back in qualifying, nearly crashed again, but stayed in it. Looked like he might have his first pole, but the last guy out was Will Power, who won his 48th pole as the 21st attempt in qualifying yesterday. And we have some very interesting starting positions for this event. The Penske's, as mentioned, strong but spread out. Will Power starts first. Elio Castroneves starts third. There's Simon Pagenaud back in 11th. Joseph Newgarden 16th. Note Takuma Sato, the best of the Hondas and of Andretti Autosport, starting 5th. And the championship leader, Scott Dixon, will start 17th. But let's talk more about J.R. Hildebrand. And he's with the newest member of our team, former Monster Road to Indy driver, Anders Krohn.
And JR, this is your first front row start in the Verizon IndyCar Series. That's got to fill you with so much confidence for the race today.
Yeah, man. I mean, you always look forward to starting up front when you can, and I think the most important thing here is to have good race cars. I mean, the tire deg is pretty significant. It's super hot out here today. It's going to be about making it to the end of the stints, but happy to have some clean air to start the race for sure.
And we obviously saw a really big crash there yesterday. Any soreness or any issues from that?
Oh, you're always a little sore the next day, but I feel good, and obviously there wasn't really that much damage in the big scheme of things, so felt good yesterday in the practice, and we're ready to go.
Alrighty, J.R. Hildebrand hoping to make it back on the podium just like he did in Phoenix, where he finished 3rd.
And he's been good here before, Anders. IndyCar has now established a home here at Iowa Speedway, entering its 2nd decade of racing today. Road America, where we just visited, was a staple of IndyCar racing for many, many years until it went away, but now in its 2nd year back, IndyCar is hoping to reestablish a tradition in Wisconsin. Scott Dixon leads the championship, but has all 4 Penske cars on the grid in front of him.
Scott Dixon looking to the outside, and oh, he got pushed out onto the rumbles.
Scott Dixon knows how hard it's going to be to take the fight to the Penske's on the track. This is where he's hoping to make up time.
Dixon has now moved into 3rd.
Dixon is going to jump Castroneves and pull into 2nd position.
You give Dixon a sniff at the lead, and he's going to go for it like an assassin. Whoa!
Restart coming up, and a good run for Scott Dixon. Newgarden won't give it up, but Dixon is going to grab the spot and takes the lead. It was thought to be a Penske weekend, but Scott Dixon, the master, is going to take the checkered flag and win for the first time in 2017.
Not what I expected, you know, with all the troubles we had today, but so pumped for the whole team.
It's Penske 2 through 5, but it was Scott Dixon who jumped them all.
It's obviously disappointing for one of our cars not to win.
Proud of our guys, just disappointed we weren't able to get it done.
It's really a shame we didn't bring a win for the team.
Today, it was all Scott Dixon.
And Dixon already led the championship going into Road America, but he expanded on it very nicely. Now 34 up in front of Simon Pagenaud, 3 more on Helio Castroneves. Look at the Penske's there from 2 through 6. And then Takuma Sato right in the middle, thanks in large part to double points for the Indianapolis 500 win. He is in 4th. Well, let's hear from Jan Bikas now. The 4-time champion Scott Dixon is downstairs with Jan.
Yes, and he's just about ready to be introduced here. We came up the stairs with the championship point leader. And when you talk about championship points, if you look at the stats for Scott Dixon, when he scores points, every year you've won the championship, you scored more points in the second half than you have in the first. That's got to give you a lot of confidence.
Well, I hope that starts real soon. You know, obviously we had a good one there at Road America, and especially for NTT data, so hopefully we can continue that. We're obviously starting on the back foot this race. You know, we had a horrible day yesterday and starting 17th, so hopefully we can move up quickly and stay out of trouble and try and regain something out of this.
Starting 17th, how big of a challenge?
It's going to be a big challenge, but you know, anything's possible, and I think as long as we're consistent and as long as we get the most out of it, I think we can run well.
All right, he says anything is possible. He's actually finished on the podium here before, starting 23rd.
And Jan, look out for the rest of the field. Already a lead, and of the remaining tracks, Dixon has 15 wins. If he wins the championship, we might look at Road America as a turning point. The Penske's might do the same. They started 1 through 4, still finished 2nd through 5th, but they desperately wanted a win there. And they've not had great success here at Iowa. Despite starting on the pole 6 of 11 times, they've yet to win here, and their average starting and finish is just over 10th. Let's hear from one of those drivers. Second last year, Will Power is with Katie Hargett.
Well, we just saw how Team Penske stacks up here at Iowa Speedway versus other track, but the key there, not one win for the captain, Roger Penske. How do you translate qualifying speed into a race win today?
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously qualifying is so different to the race, but you know, I felt pretty good in practice yesterday. It's all about running traffic. You know, running in traffic, you're going to be in traffic within 16 laps, you know, in the first stint. So you've got to be able to run the high line, low line, run well behind the cars, and that's going to be the key. I would love to be the guy bringing Roger a win here.
A 7th pole for Team Penske this season for you yesterday. What do you guys have figured out about qualifying?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's just some years, you know, it all clicks well. Definitely the draw I had in qualifying helped, but the car was really good. So, you know, I had no issues, really good balance. If I can have that balance in the race, I'll be very strong.
Kevin, he's already won from the pole once this year. He'll try to do it again today.
And when you talk about poles, we can see Helio Castroneves. He and Power have combined for 98. Joseph Newgarden dominated this race last year. He's being introduced right now, and we will visit with the Penske driver coming up in just a few minutes. Stage 10 of the Tour de France is on NBCSN. Will the breakaway finally have its day, or will it be another high-speed showdown? Coverage begins Tuesday morning at 8 Eastern with Tour Primetime Tuesday night at 8 Eastern. Another fantastic finish today. We look for more of the same coming up on Tuesday. There is Joseph Newgarden going for introductions and a lap around the track. Last year was also a Team Penske driver on the pole, but it was their soon-to-be teammate dealing with significant injury who delivered an on-track beatdown.
A great crowd on hand. Now, as we build towards the green flag, how's the healing process for Joseph Newgarden? After his brutal crash in Texas, Iowa is a physical track, and Newgarden will need all the strength that he can muster. Green, green, green. Simon Pagenaud gets the jump, and Newgarden immediately looks to the outside. Joseph Newgarden leads lap number 1.
Unbelievable, the grit to be out there, first of all, but then to dominate in the way he's doing it right now. This is sensational. There's the yellow. Newgarden lost a 10-second advantage.
Last year, same position. He led the whole race, and on the final pit stop, they had a bad pit stop.
The money stop right here.
The crew definitely knows they have to perform on this one.
And Dixon and Pagenaud get out almost side by side behind Newgarden, and Power's going to get out fourth on this stop.
Now what does Pagenaud do? Forces Power. Power doesn't like it low.
Oh, he's got him now.
We got a battle for second.
Oh, and he pinches him up.
Whoa! Joseph Newgarden out of turn 4 onto the front straightaway. Joseph Newgarden wins in Iowa.
And of course, it was a dream race for Joseph Newgarden. Right here, you led 282 laps for a record here at Iowa Speedway. But that was with Ed Carpenter Racing. Now, how do you make that transition kind of set up in the field with Team Penske?
Well, I'm hoping we can recreate that magic. You know, it was a great weekend for us on ECR. There's a lot of effort that goes into those type of weekends, and you don't get them very often, so you got to enjoy it. But I think this weekend's going to be tougher. You know, it's the track's aged in another year, makes it a little bit more difficult. We're still running during the day, and it's going to be a little bit hotter. So I think everyone's going to struggle today, trying to keep the tires underneath them, trying to get through the field. We just got to be a little bit better. So it's been a lot of work, but I feel confident in what we can do with the Fitzgerald car.
At Road America, you battled with Scott Dixon. And today you may battle with him. You start 16th and 17th respectively. So is that a good thing or a bad thing for you?
Well, it's not a bad thing. I mean, I think we're going to be racing him all year long, you know, all the way to the finish. And we got to try and be ahead of him, obviously, to win the championship. But, you know, for us at Team Penske, we're going to try and focus on getting the car in victory lane. I think we're going to have to race everybody today. You're going to see everyone multiple times, most likely, if you have a fast car. So hopefully we just don't stay behind him too long.
All right, thank you, Joseph. And, of course, his win here last year put him in the history books, along with the wins of Ed Carpenter Racing.
Yeah, Jan, their team and Ed himself very successful on ovals. Ed had been knocking on the door for quite some time in 2011. He actually was driving for Sarah Fisher. He got his first oval win. He had come so close the 2 years before at Kentucky, won again at Fontana in 2012. Also got an oval win at Texas Motor Speedway 3 years ago. And then last year, the dominating race, really 2 years in a row, for Joseph Newgarden, winning in 2016 after almost winning in 2015 as well. So let's hear from the boss. Ed Carpenter is with Katie.
And Ed, your team, more specifically you, have a reputation for being feared on ovals. What works for you guys year in and year out?
I think we've got a great group of guys on the team. We've had a lot of continuity since 2012, and you know, I think that really brings consistency within the program. But I haven't won one of these since 2014, so hopefully we'll change that today, and you know, maybe have people call me oval expert actually make more sense right now.
You and JR, your teammate, were the only guys that were able to break up the Penske's up front. How do you expect that to play out over 300 laps?
I mean, the way the cars have been this weekend with the heat and everything here, you know, it really could be anyone's race. It doesn't, you know, Chevys have had an advantage here, but whoever gets the handle on this heat and can take care of their tires and be good the second half of a stint, you know, that's going to be the car that's going to be dangerous. We've been pretty happy with ours, so, you know, we'll see what we can do after 300 laps.
Anders, he'll try to get that first win since 2014 from fourth today.
And TK, you had a solid qualifying run there, but let's take us back to Texas. I mean, it was such a crazy race, but somehow you managed to finish second. Are we going to see a similar race here today as we did there?
I hope not as crazy. You know, I made a mistake, so hopefully we will not do that and try to put a good race together.
And of course, everyone's going to be wondering here, are we going to see the normal Tony Kanaan high side at the start here? Is that what we're going to see here, the Tony Kanaan high side line?
We're going to go for it for sure, so we'll see what's going to happen.
All right, that's Tony Kanaan. He is obviously your 2010 race winner here from Iowa Speedway.
Debut on the broadcast, and Anders gets to go down through driver introductions. Welcome, Anders. Another guy we know is going to be exciting is Takuma Sato. We're going to talk with the Indianapolis 500 winner and the best starting Honda coming up.
Welcome back to the Verizon IndyCar Series on NBCSN for the Iowa Corn 300. And speaking of Iowa Corn, I'm joined now by Larry Cleaver, who is the president of the promotions board. Larry, IndyCars have logged millions of miles on ethanol. What's the benefit to the series to running ethanol?
Well, ethanol is, Iowa's the leader in ethanol production, using over 1 million gallons. And it's America's renewable fuel. It's homegrown, it's clean, it's affordable, and it's readily available.
Every time I talk to the Verizon IndyCar Series drivers about the Iowa Corn 300, it's one of their favorite stops of the year. But what do you hope the fans learn today?
Well, Iowa Corn has used the Iowa Corn platform for over 10 years, and it's a way of reaching consumers to let them know that we have enough corn available to satisfy our key customers' needs, livestock, ethanol, and exports.
Larry, thank you so much for your support of the Iowa Corn 300.
Thank you.
Iowa is a bull ring. It's crazy.
Just a very tricky, very demanding, fast racetrack.
Tough place to get right. You have to make sure your car is handling very well there to have a good race. It could either be a really good day or a really tough day.
You know, when I race there, I'm racing the racetrack as much as anything else, and I look forward to that every season.
The sensation of speed is the most impressive thing I've ever experienced.
It's just so fast.
Just an awesome short track. I think some of the best racing that we have all year long.
Definitely on the edge of your seat right down to the wire.
Probably one of the best places to view a race. I think you get a great advantage there for the fans.
So challenging, so entertaining for us. Iowa Speedway, the fourth of 6 ovals in the 2017 Verizon IndyCar Series schedule. It started with Phoenix. Keep that in mind. That's the other short track. Still different, though, because this has more banking, has more super speedway characteristic. Simon Pagenaud won that race with Will Power and J.R. Hildebrand on the podium. Then Takuma Sato wins the Indianapolis 500 in a thriller over Helio Castroneves. Will Power won a month ago at Texas with Tony Kanaan finishing second. Here at Iowa, maybe the Chevys, but do the Hondas have something? Still much to be determined. We go to Pocono, the next oval on the schedule. Will Power won that race last year. And to Gateway, outside St. Louis for the first time since 2003. Helio Castroneves won that race as well. So as we shift from a road course to an oval, Jan Bikas explains the differences from a setup standpoint and more.
The last race at Road America represents the longest track on the circuit at just over 4 miles, followed by, yes, the shortest, the 7/8 mile here at Iowa Speedway. So it begs the question, how many laps of Iowa Speedway could you do for 1 lap of Road America? Now, while those run simultaneously, here's what has to happen with the car itself. Each car represents 200 man-hours to make that transition and prepare it for Iowa. All the suspension is stripped off the car and crack checked. And then each corner is rebuilt on a build sheet. Every one of these 4 corners is different with different configuration because you're only turning left. They'll change things like steering ratios because of the high loads in the corners. These rockers, suspension rockers, are a higher ratio also because you have stiffer anti-roll bars, you have stiffer shocks, and stiffer springs. These shock absorbers have been completely revalved, and they're different from left to right, just like the springs themselves. Now, camber is different from side to side. That's the way that you angle in the tires. Of course, normally you run on the inside edge here because at 5 Gs of loading, then that flexes and you get the full contact patch in the corners. Well, negative camber here, but positive camber on the left side. You actually run on the outside edge of the tire until you're in, and therefore you get the full contact patch. Around the center of the car, you move around some of the ballast to change the weight distribution. And inside the fuel cell, because you're only turning left, you move the pickup points to one side so it picks up in the corners. And of course, during a pit stop now, you fuel on the left side and not the right. The gearbox remains the same. However, instead of having a differential, something that unlocks this wheel in a tight corner on a road course, now these are locked together. So when you have stagger, in other words, this tire being smaller than the outside, when this car accelerates, now it has an arc to the left. All right, well, here's our answer. 5.5 laps done here at Iowa for just 1 at Road America. Now consider the race length at Road America was 55 laps. 55 laps here at Iowa doesn't even get you to your first fuel stop.
Really good stuff, Jan. I think we knew most of that, but never really had it explained that well in that much detail. Really interesting. All right, here at Iowa Speedway, we've talked about it. Michael Andretti's team has really dominated. 7 wins in 10 years, starting with Dario Franchitti back in 2007. Kanaan won in 2010. Marco Andretti's last win was here in 2011. James Hinchcliffe, while with the team, won here and dominated in 2013. And then Ryan Hunter-Reay took over with 3 wins in 4 years. Maybe Takuma Sato has the best opportunity this year, and he's with Anders.
Now, Takuma, you outqualified your teammates by quite some margin, but in practice, I saw you made so many mechanical changes to the car. Do you think you have something raceable?
I hope so. As hot as it is now, and nobody knows if it's going to be. I think it's going to be a little greasy and a lot of turbulence on, so it's a very difficult evening. But hopefully we have a strong package and we get a strong result this evening.
Now, historically, this hasn't necessarily been your best oval. What can you change today to climb to that top step of the podium?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the final seat of the paper, yeah, it wasn't the best one, but I got a great history or great memories here. You know, I had a really enjoyable. This short oval is always exciting, and I love it. So hopefully tonight is the one of my best races in Iowa.
All right, Takuma Sato, he was on the pole here in 2011, wants to complete the run and win the race today.
And trying to become the 6th different driver for Michael Andretti to win here. As mentioned, one of those is Ryan Hunter-Reay, a 3-time winner, and he has our Verizon in-car streaming camera. Go inside IndyCar all season. Download IndyCar mobile from Verizon. All right, it's time now. It is extremely hot, over 90 degrees, so I hope he's hydrated. And please pace yourself. It's time for the grid walk/run with Robin Miller.
All right, it's the grid run, brother, except I'm walking. Okay, I wrote a story yesterday that said you might only have 7 full-time races left. You might be a sports car driver next year. I got all this nasty email to racer.com said, he can't leave, we got to have him. But there's one way maybe to prevent that.
That's right. We just got to make sure we not only win this race, but win the championship. And right now, I tell you what, it's been incredible. The cars, it's been hot here, as I believe you noticed. But we have Hitachi Chevy. It's really looking strong, and can't wait to go out there and put some laps.
All right, the fans want to take up a collection and get that guy a ride. Okay, let's go see who we got here. These guys think it's funny because it's hot, and they think I'm not in shape. Huh? That's nice. A whole row with no drivers. How is that possible? How can there not be a driver? They are. Where's TK? There he is. TK! All right, don't give me that look. I bet a guy $100 you'll pass 6 cars in the first lap.
I'll try. That's
no,
great.
I don't want to hear you'll try.
Here, we'll do it.
You'll do it.
You'll do it.
High line all day?
Well, if I tell you that, everybody's going to know, but...
they can't talk to anybody.
Yeah, then yes.
High line all day.
High line all day.
Have fun. Sorry. Ed Jones. Where's my rookie of the year? Eduardo! All right, you got a broken left foot. The good news is you only use your right foot here, right?
Yeah, exactly, except for the pit stops. But no, otherwise you're fine, and I'm having a good weekend so far.
All right, after the Texas race, you said that was fun. Told me 2 things. 1, you're a kid. 2, you're not real bright.
What can I say? I love the oval racing. You know, for me that's the funnest part, especially those pack races. Obviously, there's some concerns over it, but for me, the enjoyment-wise, it was the best thing I've done.
You are smart, and the fans liked it that you had a good time. All right, who would have thought that guy was going to be an oval track driver? But he's done a hell of a job. Here comes the guy that won this race once. Excuse me, sir.
Yes, sir.
Beautiful young lady there.
Yes.
Would you like to introduce your girlfriend?
Becky Dahlman, this is the world.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice
And this
to
is
meet
Rise
you.
Robin. He's not the world.
He's big in Canada. All right, you dominated this race a couple years ago. How do you get to the front?
Man, the smart aleck in me wants to say pass the other guys, but it's more complicated than that with the track conditions today. I think that the guy that gets the car working up high and down low, you're going to have a very versatile setup today to go to the front.
All right, brother, thanks. Good luck. Sorry, I had to push him. Now we'll go find there's Pagenaud, last year's champion. Pagenaud, I'm not even breathing hard. Don't give me that look. Now look.
You almost missed me.
8 out of 10 races you've had a top 5. Any other year you'd have a 100-point lead in the championship, and you're trailing Scott Dixon. What do you do to beat him?
That's a good question. He's very strong. Any car you put him in, he's going to be super strong. He's going to be the guy you're going to have to beat. So I enjoy it. I mean, he's the best guy out there, so you want to fight against him. We certainly have to become a little bit more aggressive now. But, you know, I want to finish as many races as possible because I believe it's going to be a season where you can have a lot of random winner like we've seen so far. So any point is going to be important. It's definitely not going to be like last year.
All right, but you look like an oval track driver last year. Now we got a little bit of news for you. Sebastian Bourdais tweeted out this year to some of his buddies this week. He got away from the doctor and he said, guess what? I'm healing faster than anybody believes. I'm in the swimming pool. I'm going to be back before Sonoma. So I asked Dale Coyne, I said, he might be back at Gateway? And he said, oh no, his wife had never let him run an oval coming back. Kevin Lee, it's all yours, buddy.
Good job, Robin. Very impressive young man. Coming up, we'll hear from Paul Tracy and Townsend Bell. They're ready to give us their thoughts on tonight's events. You're watching IndyCar Live, brought to you by Verizon. Go inside IndyCar all season. Download IndyCar Mobile from Verizon.
They nearly come together.
There goes Moto. It's the big one.
Christian, we are down to
7
cars. But Texas Motor Speedway won by willpower, but safe to say it was wild. What will we see tonight? Welcome to Iowa Speedway and the Iowa Corn 300. It's great to be here. I'm Kevin Lee, along with Townsend Bell and Paul Tracy. We've got a really interesting starting lineup because of qualifying yesterday. So, PT, let's start up front. No surprise, Penske's are up there, starting first and third with Power and Elio. I want to talk specifically about J.R. Hildebrand, his best starting position ever in second. How will he and how should he approach this race?
Well, I got one thing to say. WWPD, what would Paul do on the start? And if I'm J.R. Hildebrand, I'm going to hold it wide open, hit that high line, use that variable banking, get around willpower, because if you let Slick Willie control the front of the race, this could just be like Texas. He's become quite a good oval driver. And this is an opportunity for JR. He had the race-winning car under him. This is an opportunity for him to turn his whole career around today. So hopefully he can make it happen.
And we may be in for a treat because of qualifying conditions. The order really mattered yesterday, so some fast guys are coming from mid-pack and beyond. Pagenaud in 11th, Joseph Newgarden in 16th, Dixon in 17th. Let's talk about the guy who dominated last year. What are you seeing for Joseph Newgarden?
Well, hang on. Roger Penske, I think, just came over the radio and said, DDWPD, don't do what Paul did when he drove for us.
Been there, tried that.
Because for Joseph Newgarden, I talked to him just before the race, and he gave me his 3 keys for the race today. The first is traffic. He knows he's going to be in traffic all day long. Get the car adjusted early. Get it handling right in traffic. You're going to be there for most of the race. The second thing is tires. Huge today. We've never seen it this hot as it is right now at Iowa. Track temp 130 degrees. Have to manage tires. And the third thing is once you get to the front, you got to have a fast car. Joseph Newgarden feels like he's got a fast car to get to the front, but he told me it's going to be harder than it was last year in traffic for him. He's got his challenge today, but I think he's cut out for it.
Everyone thought Penske was going to dominate 2 weeks ago at Road America. Might be we be surprised again today?
Well, you never know. Scott Dixon has won here in the past, and he's very strong. He hasn't had a great weekend so far. He didn't practice particularly well, sat out with a penalty, but he also didn't qualify well. He had a bad draw, so he might come through the field or he might struggle. You never know.
I'm looking for a dark horse also, maybe like Michaela Lotion, somebody that's super brave on these short ovals and could come charging through and surprise everybody tonight.
Can't wait to see how it all develops, and we're about ready to go. Drivers are being strapped in. The command is coming up in just a moment, and we will go green from Iowa. Thank you for watching IndyCar Live, presented by Verizon. The drivers are getting ready to go. Michaela Lotion is going to be fun to watch, and so many more at Iowa. The 2017 IndyCar season for Scott Dixon started with consistency, scoring 5 consecutive top 5 finishes. But just as the New Zealander took pole at Indy, poised to win his second 500, misfortune struck hard. And again in Texas. 2 weeks ago, Dixon climbed his way back and won at Road America, increasing his points lead to 34 over last year's champion Simon Pagenaud. With 7 races left, time is running out for the rest of the field to catch the 4-time champion on a drive for number 5. It's the Iowa Corn 300. Shortest track of the season, 7/8 of a mile, Iowa Speedway. Great to be with you for an evening race. Before twilight, it is going to be slick and tricky. Drivers are strapped in. We are nearly prepared to go. Before we can, let's go trackside.
Race fans, it is time for those most famous words in motorsports. Please welcome President of Iowa Corn Promotion Board, Larry Cleaver, to give the command.
Drivers, start your corn ethanol-powered engines.
'21 Indy cars are fired and ready to take on this 7/8 of a mile bull ring. For further perspective about this race and this place, let's go down to the grid and we start with Katie Hargan.
Kevin, Iowa Speedway packs the pressure like no other track. Every single lap, all 21 drivers are within just inches of each other. And the laps are so fast, they're already thinking about pitting off turn 2. And if all goes to plan, they'll do that 4 times today. But let's be honest, when does anything ever go to plan in racing? So what I want you to watch out for is drivers overshooting that pit entrance to throw a wrench in their race strategy today. Jan?
And Katie, when you talk about pitting today, the pit windows might be nice and wide and comfortable, but there's nothing comfortable knowing that if you pit today under green, you're going to lose 2 laps to the leaders. Now today, it must be more, as everyone peels out to get this race started, it'll be more about pitting for tires, not for fuel. And anytime you have that scenario, it makes for a barn burn of a race. Anders?
And Jan, you talk about comfortable or uncomfortable rather. Have you ever driven so fast off a highway exit ramp that you think to yourself, oh man, that was uncomfortable? That's exactly what these Verizon IndyCar Series drivers are going to do. Not once, but 300 laps consecutively. This is going to be a hard one. Robin?
AJ Foyt once said, if you drive an IndyCar and you say it doesn't scare you, you're a liar. Well, nobody's used the word scare this weekend. They've used loose, bumpy, really busy, sliding a lot. Well, that's what you're going to see tonight. 300 laps of guys going 180 miles an hour into the first turn on a little 7/8 bull ring. This is what IndyCar racing used to be in the old days, and guess what? That's what it's going to be tonight. A thrill show, 300 laps around Iowa Speedway.
Great stuff from pit road, ready to get going, and here is how they will start this event.
Well, look at J.R. Hildebrand up there. Terrific qualifying effort. Best of his career. Has a huge chance today. Right behind him, number 20, Ed Carpenter, his teammate and his team owner.
Watch out for the Michaela Lotion, the Mad Russian. He's going to make moves. He's always exciting here. Tony Kanaan, he nearly won this race last year. Watch him to move forward.
Looking back further, Joseph Newgarden and Scott Dixon. If they get into action early, they could run the risk of going a lap down. They've got to stay clean on the first few laps.
And again, these guys at the back, Marco Andretti, he's a past winner here. Terrible this weekend. He's been all over the track complaining that he thought his car was broke. So he's really got to make some moves in the first stint.
6 onboards to give you spectacular views today, including the Lucas Oil onboard for James Hinchcliffe starting his 100th IndyCar race, and his teammate Michaela Lotion with the Arrow on board. He's going to start on the outside of row 3. You got to keep an eye on Tony Kanaan at the start. The NTT data on board, he will start 7th. Graham Rahal has the Gale on board starting in the 10th position. Ed Carpenter will have a Verizon on board. He starts on the outside of the 2nd row. And we have a great look for Ryan Hunter-Reay with Verizon streaming. Go inside IndyCar all season. Download IndyCar Mobile from Verizon. This will be good, won't it, boys?
It's going to be terrific. I was at the drivers' meeting earlier. Nobody had fingernails left. They're all chewing on them. Everybody has high tensions.
Variable banking at this track. The bottom lane has less banking than the higher lane. Watch, a lot of guys are going to start going up the track and trying to carry momentum. You've got 3 lanes of racing here on this short 1-mile track. It's incredible racing.
Front 2 rows, 2 Penske's on the bottom side. Top side is the 2 Fuzzies Vodka cars with J.R. Hildebrand in the front. It's IndyCar from the heartland, Iowa Speedway. Let's go!
Graham Rahal moves high. He's going to go for the high line first. His car was really good in warm-up. You got 3 guys, 3 abreast back there with Pagano.
Watching everybody fan out. There is J.R. Hildebrand inside of Castroneves, trying to make a move. Castroneves has the advantage. Big wiggle back there. I think that was Marco Andretti.
Castroneves got the better of J.R. Hildebrand. Not the start that J.R. wanted. We have Will Power sitting on the front, followed by his teammate, and then both of the Carpenter cars.
That was Alexander Rossi, I believe, with big slide out of turn 4. Hunter-Reay, his teammates all over him.
And that's Ed Carpenter in 3rd position, so he got around his teammate J.R. Hildebrand. So it's the 2 Penske's with Power and Castroneves, then Carpenter, Hildebrand, and then Sato is the best of the Hondas running in 5th.
Already a gap to the back group here. These guys falling off the tail of the pack, and if you fall too far back, you will quickly get sucked up by the leaders. Graham Rahal on the high side on Ryan Hunter-Reay. He's moving forward, but Ryan Hunter-Reay is moving forward because he started way behind Graham Rahal.
We talked to Rahal this morning. He said the high line through turns 1 and 2 is good if you're way high. If you're mid-track, you're going over the bumps, and it's a handful, so you've got to pick low or high in turn 1, and now the ECR boys are going at it.
Ed Carpenter looking at his teammate. He goes to the low line. JR in the middle of the track. They say the middle groove is bumpy. The high groove is smooth. The low groove is smooth. So watch these guys move around, and as these tires wear, they're going to be trying to find any possible grip that they can get.
Scott Dixon has already picked up 4 spots from 17th to 13th. We saw Ryan Hunter-Reay. There you see him right there. He's just in front of Dixon. Hunter Ray has picked up a few spots as well, running in 12th after starting in 15th.
Huge understeer from Scott Dixon across the apex of turn 1. You can see the car bouncing through those bumps, and the line is going to fan out as Alexander Rossi looking to the high side of Graham Rahal. Just going to say the line is going to fan out as the tires wear. The radius is going to grow in the corner. We ride on board with Kanaan, and you're going to see this all night long, guys.
That's a bucking bronco right there. He's riding a horse that doesn't want to go. And you see how far Pagano pulled away from him just in one corner.
Pagano in the bright yellow Menards car got around Kanaan. There's Kanaan back there in 9th. That yellow Gale car is Graham Rahal scooting up a little bit on the high side, and it's Rossi that's behind him. Now Rahal has the run on Kanaan.
A big run. He used the upper groove. Now he's on the lower groove, but he got a big run coming off of 2. Slides up in front of Kanaan, gets him loose, and Aloshin's now all over the back of Rossi's all over the back of Kanaan. He goes by easily.
And now watching Alexander Rossi looks incredibly strong. Don't forget, his engineer, Jeremy Millis, is the same guy that took Joseph Newgarden to a dominant win last year. If Rossi has the same sort of handling Newgarden had last year, he could be really tough.
TK's in big trouble. He's falling like a stone to the bottom of the lake. Guys are going by him like he's standing still. So you can see his hands in the car. He's so loose. Can he hang on to this thing, or is he going to be the first yellow, Townsend?
That was his teammate Scott Dixon blowing by. Now his other teammate, Charlie Kimball. Sorry, that's Joseph Newgarden to the low side.
And already we see cars being lapped. There is the leader, Will Power, about to put Marco Andretti, who was running last in 21st, a lap down. Andretti had a dreadful qualifying session. He was about 7 miles per hour slower than everyone else yesterday.
I was watching Marco. He made some moves on the start, got about 3 or 4 guys. He was up around Connor Daly and some other guys, and now he has fallen off the tail of the pack. And his handling woes this weekend continue, but he is hanging tough, trying to keep that lead, stay on the lead lap. And these guys are so loose right now, Townsend, anybody can crash at any moment.
Well, those first 2 laps, you can rely on the mechanical grip of fresh tires, but at some point, your balance or your balance deficiency is going to reveal itself, and that's the place that Marco Andretti's found himself right now.
Marco's basically got a mirror drive. He's got to drive wherever Will Power goes to try to keep him behind him, but Will Power's struggling to get by, so it's not easy. He goes to the high side, gets a nice run here, but I think Marco's going to slide up in front of him.
I think Marco's going to have to yield the position here if Power can stay high and smooth. Yeah, there he goes. Poor Marco Andretti, 285 laps left of what he's dealing with right now.
Marco's coming back, but look at Castroneves gets a big run. He's still monkeying around with Marco. Castroneves gets a big run on the pair of them.
As soon as Marco falls into the dirty air of another car, look, he's going to drop really fast. There goes Castroneves.
I spoke to some engineers last night, and they expect it to be very difficult the first 20 laps or so because of all the different rubber that has been put on the track from Indy Lights and last night from ARCA. Will Power has the early jump. Castroneves, Carpenter, Hildebrand, and Sato at Iowa. NASCAR is on NBCSN. The Monster Energy Cup Series is live from the Magic Mile of New Hampshire next Sunday at 3 o'clock Eastern. Last night, hopefully you were with us watching from Kentucky. Martin Truex took the trifecta, winning both stages and the race. 3rd win of the season. He's increased his series-leading playoff point total to 28, 12 more than Jimmy Johnson, as we watch Michaela Aloshin, who had just gotten by Carpenter, up to 3rd, now losing a spot to Rahal. Hopefully the NASCAR drivers, as we get set for them to go to New Hampshire, getting a Sunday off and enjoying this one here today like we are, Jan.
Yes, and Graham Rahal certainly is on a charge, and all the drivers right now are aware that the pit windows today are pretty wide. Look at how wide they are with your opportunity to pit. Now that's when you would need fuel. Every driver out there, and Graham Rahal is one that said, for example, I know I need to take care of my tires. Every driver doesn't have a perfect car now. We see a lot of loose race cars like Townsend and Paul were talking about, but most of them are riding around. How far can I go before I stop on these tires? Because if I stop now and then there's a caution, I'm going to lose 2 laps. So it's a big gamble on this first hit. How long can he hang on?
You're right about that, Jan. It is a gamble. It's really a game of chicken. Who's going to be the first yellow? Because everybody's going to stay out unless their car is diabolical and you know you're going to wreck. That's the only reason you're going to pit right now.
The guy who's stabilized after all those handling problems is Kanaan. He's stabilized at 14th as we see Graham Rahal goes around the outside of Gutierrez.
So Graham Rahal has moved up 7 spots from 10th to 3rd. That's him in the yellow Gale car. Iowa Corn presents our biggest movers of the race. Ryan Hunter-Reay also in a charge from 15th to 8th. Last year was so frustrating for Hunter-Reay. He wasn't where he wanted in qualifying either. Scott Dixon, the championship leader, has moved up 6 spots. And last year's winner, Joseph Newgarden, has also moved up a few positions.
And Kevin, Ryan Hunter-Reay has been so frustrated with that car all weekend long, and what frustrates him most is he knows he can be fast here. He's a 3-time winner here, but he said since they changed the race to the daytime, he has not been able to find that sweet spot on the car, so they threw everything but the kitchen sink at it last night. He is a lot happier today as you see him charging through the field.
And he got one more spot up to 7th, got around Hinch just a moment ago.
Just watching the two, Dixon and Newgarden, they're sitting in 11th and 12th right now. 11th and 12th for Dixon and Newgarden, and not much they can do, Paul. They're sort of locked into that dirty air, sort of frozen in position right now, probably just tuning on the car, waiting for the round of pit stops to see if that's a way to get track position.
Yeah, the most important thing for these 3 guys right here, Sato, Dixon, and Newgarden, is not to go a lap down, because Castro Neves is lapping around at 19.5, and these guys are at 20.2, 20.3, so they got to be careful not to go a lap down. But there's Pagano just in front of them, so all these 4 guys are all championship contenders, and they're all racing each other.
Currently lapping almost 3 seconds slower, the field is, than a qualifying pace around here at Iowa. It's racing a lot like a stock car race in the middle of this tire stint. If you just hear how much off throttle they are in the corners, a lot of driving going on out there.
Well, you got to question whether these guys, when they do their first pit stops, do you go out and go hard and try to go fast, or you start out slow and conserve your tires? So as we see the onboard with Hinch,
let's just listen to the throttle.
Listen to the throttle on this car.
#100th career start for James Hinchcliffe. And he's given feedback already. Lap 56, in the next 10 laps to 15, we'll see everybody hit pit lane. He's given some feedback now. You can see the understeer. You can see how long he has to hold steering in before he can roll the throttle back on.
Well, having a little bit of understeer is better than being snapped loose, that's for sure. So he's hanging on to his position. As we see Castro Neves, he's still trying to get by Carlos Munoz. He's been working on him for a long time, but we have a big crash in turn 2, and it looks like it might be a Lotion.
Oh, boy. We just talked about this. I said a Lotion. He's got a good car. He has to get to the end of one of these races. He was running 4th.
Yeah, guys. I'm sorry, but
Appears to be a 1-car crash for Mikhail Aloshin, as mentioned, was running 4th.
And
good to see he's okay.
About 20 laps ago, he had a big moment coming off turn 2. He got through a bump and corrected and hung on, but like we talked about, these yellows, it's who's going to get it first. Who can hang on before needing to come to pit lane for fresh tires, and unfortunately for Mikhail Aloshin, he was the first man out.
We went to the drivers' meeting this morning, Townsend and I, and they said 60% of the accidents, Brian Barnhart said, happen in turn 2. That bumpy turn 2 is a big bump in the middle. As we watch Mikhail, he floats it into the corner, hits that bump, and it just gets loose. He buries the throttle to try to get it to spin all the way around. But it was going for the wall.
I like the commitment on the gas, though, man. He was going into the fence and still going to hold it wide open.
And that was his teammate Hinchcliffe there, who came by and came the closest.
Just looked like he had a nice big arc into the corner, and he went, Townsend, for the bottom of the track, and it just over-rotated and just... Once it got sideways, he buried his foot in the throttle to try to keep it from going up, just up to the wall, and try to get it to spin downwards, but it wasn't having it.
Great heads-up driving from Ed Carpenter there. You saw he was right on the fuel map switch, going immediately to save fuel under caution. Anything he can do for a little advantage, whether that's filling short on pit lane or being able to stretch these yellow laps a little longer.
So let's go back to Phoenix and recall what happened there with Mikhail Aloshin. This was at the start of the race that took out a lot of people.
Didn't last very long here. Made one corner before he took out about 5 or 6 cars, including Sebastian Bourdais, who was on a roll up to that point, and Graham Rahal.
outside. Oh, hold on.
That time he got out of the throttle, Paul. This time he thought, well, let me try the other way around.
Yeah, he tried to get it to spin down the track because it went loose pretty early, but it carried its momentum up, and he had the throttle going wide open, the tires spinning, but ultimately it connected flat pancaked against the wall, tore up both sides of the car. The front and rear corner are pancaked.
Now, right before that crash, I was wondering if we might see someone dive in. How much were the tires giving up? But had you done that, you'd be in big trouble. You would be laps down. So none of the leaders had pitted. And here we go. Pits are open. Here they come, and we start with Anders Krohn.
It's been a pretty solid run so far for J.R. Hildebrand. No big comments for him. He's just going to add a turn of front wing, and he's going to be on his way with 4 new tires. Katie?
And Ed Carpenter was happy with the car in the beginning of the run, but it kept getting worse. So if you see them there, adding a turn of front wing into that 20 car, Jan.
And no changes for Castro Neves or for Will Power right behind him. And easily, Castro Neves gets out ahead of Will Power. Again, no changes for the Penske cars. They like how they're performing, obviously.
Graham Rahal comes out third. The two Fuzzies cars for Ed Carpenter Racing nearly together in 4th and 5th.
Just watching Carpenter and Hildebrand racing side by side. It's been like that so far all day. Owner and driver sharing the same piece of track.
Well, it's still Helio Castroneves out front looking for his first win in more than 3 years, and we're under yellow for the first time.
Hold on.
Under caution for the first time for a single car incident for Mikhail Aloshin at Iowa Speedway. He climbed from the car under his own power. And we're about set to go back to a restart with Will Power chasing his teammate Helio Castroneves. I mentioned that Castroneves hasn't won since Detroit in 2014, but it's not because he hasn't been competitive. In that time, he's finished second 8 times and on the podium 13 times. It has been the championship fight all 3 of those years. Next time by, we go green. Rahal in 3rd. Ed Carpenter in 4th. He's got the little yellow stripe on the Fuzzies car at the bottom, and then it's orange on the bottom for J.R. Hildebrand. The bright yellow car is Pagenaud in 6th. Green again at Iowa Speedway, and Ed Carpenter going to the inside of Graham Rahal, trying to grab 3rd place.
Everything resets now. Brand new Firestone tires. Big grip equals big confidence. This is your chance to make some moves.
It's a pretty spread out restart. The guys got single file pretty quick. I was expecting some more action. These restarts, the yellows breed yellows, but these guys are back up to speed right away as Ed looks on the inside, way high up the track. It's Graham Rahal using that top line to carry momentum down the straightaway. Ed pulls ahead in the bottom, but as you see, he's going to have some momentum as he gets him clean there.
So Carpenter gets the spot, moves into 3rd ahead of Rahal. Let's check in with Robin.
Hello, Mikhail, you're running 4th. You made a great save a few laps before you spun. Tell us what happened.
Well, I had a really loose car all day, and I was just holding for my life there all this first stint, and I don't know how many times I showed my saves, but it was almost every lap. And then suddenly, at the last lap, I just, it went, and I just couldn't do anything. You know, it was just impossible to react.
Well, we're glad you're okay, kid. Kevin.
All right, thank you, Robin. Tough one for Mikhail Aloshin and Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports. They've still got James Hinchcliffe in the running in 10th.
Aloshin's learning the hard way. You're not going to beat a loose car on a short oval all day long. You got to make changes on pit lane. You got to get to pit lane first, Paul.
Yeah, Carpenter guys are coming back. J.R. Hildebrand again, just like his teammate Ed, making moves on Graham Rahal on the bottom. Graham is trying to hang tough on top. As we see, J.R. slides up in front of Graham and pinches him off, so he got the position away from him, just like his teammate. Exact same pass.
So Rahal falls back to 5th, right behind the 2 Ed Carpenter Racing cars, and it's 2 Penske's up front. Let's get more details on what everyone is doing. Iowa Corn takes us through the field, and we start with Jan.
Yes, and of course we start with Helio Castroneves, who made no changes on the pit stops. He has loved his car in the evening practice, and of course, when you really love your car is when you're here in clean air. Right behind him, Will Power, who looks now more racy. Even though they didn't make any visual changes on that pit stop, you can change the tire pressure if need be, Katie.
as the stint went on for Ed Carpenter. He felt like he just didn't have the power off the corner to make the passes, and on that first pit stop, they made the changes, and you see it's paying off already. Anders?
Yeah, and it looks like that turn of front wing really helped J.R. Hildebrand. He's charging through the field, just got Graham Rahal, and is now fighting with his team owner, Ed Carpenter here, Jan.
And Graham Rahal, you saw him, and he continues to run the high line. And Townsend and Paul, when you get it back, when you run the high line, you tend to not use as much of the tires up. So I think this might be Graham's strategy. Stay high, save the tires.
Ryan Hunter-Reay has been so frustrated with this 28 car all weekend, but not today. He's finally found the sweet spot on the car with that stuck front end and not compromising that back end, and he's charging through the field from starting 15th. Jan?
And Simon Pagenaud was very loose early on. They made changes on a pit stop, and guess what? Now he says, I have a big push, meaning the car won't turn in the corners. Now sometimes it'll loosen up, but he's done everything he can in the cockpit. Still too much understeer for Pagenaud. Joseph Newgarden, of course, hoping to repeat after his victory last year, but just hasn't been able to have the race pace. This is surprising. We would expect that with the knowledge that he has in the setup, that we would see Joseph Newgarden moving forward, but so far, he doesn't have the setup that he needs.
And so far, Takuma Sato doing everything that he needs to do. Only an average finishing position of 17.8 at this track, so he just wants to keep it clean, get good points for the championship. Katie?
Anders James Hinchcliffe is making his 100th start this weekend at Iowa Speedway, and he says the thing he's learned over his 100 starts is patience. He does not let a bad stint get him down, and he'll charge the way through the field at the end of this race. Jan?
Scott Dixon also hopes to charge his way through the field, but he knows he is one of the teams that knows how much downforce the Chevys had, and now he has a Honda. He says, we're giving up downforce and drag at this racetrack. We're just going to try to hold on and do the best we can.
Now, Tony Kanaan was not happy before his first stop. They took out 2 turns of front wing, did a tire pressure adjustment. Now he's on the charge. Jan?
Max Chilton, first time that we've seen Max today. Remember, he loves this racetrack, having won here in the Indy Light Series. But again, the Ganassi team was a little bit on the back foot, having not tested here, and he hasn't really been able at this point. Remember, this is a long race. He can still get tuned, but at the moment, he's chasing speed, Anders.
Alexander Rossi's been complaining of a loose car all day long so far. I spoke to strategist Rob Edwards, and he said we're stacking in all the wing that we can.
Great job through the field, getting us up to speed through 14th.
And Ed Jones is in 15th, and remember, he's driving with a broken foot, but the one thing that he's glad is it really doesn't matter here at Iowa Speedway. He's making his best start of his career, and then move back to Carlos Munoz. He's having an extremely frustrating weekend. They just feel like they haven't been able to hit the setup at any of the tracks today. He's just trying to ride it out. Anders?
Esteban Gutierrez may only be running in 17th, but I spoke to his spotter earlier, Todd Fields, and he said a win for this team today would be just finishing all 300 laps.
Charlie Kimball and the 83 team just feel kind of lost this weekend. Remember, this is the first year that Chip Ganassi Racing has this Honda Aero kit, and they're looking forward to next year. Then move back to Marco Andretti. He was really fast in practice on Saturday, then went out with qualifying, and they were just confused on what happened with the speed. They thought it was maybe a bad set of tires, but Marco still frustrated today. Anders?
Yeah, and with Connor Daly, it's been another weekend of frustration so far. Couldn't manage those bumps in turn 3 and 4. That's the root of the issue for that ABC supply team. So they're going to work throughout the course of this race to try and figure it out. Up to you guys.
Great work all the way through the field of the 20 cars still running for a moment. It looked like we would have a challenge for the lead. Will Power got right on the tail of Helio Castroneves. Helio, though, stretched it back out, as you can see there. In the white and black car, that's the leader, Helio Castroneves, about 6 car lengths in front of his teammate, Will Power. And again, we're going to see lapping coming up. Now, the tail end of the field got their lap back during the yellow, but now they're soon going to go a lap down again.
Look at Graham Rahal making a move there to the inside of Ed Carpenter. So Graham Rahal saving those tires with the high line. He saves it for the low line when he needs it on the pass. You heard Jan Bikas talk about that earlier. It's a great point, tire management.
He did a classic slide job right in front of J.R. Hildebrand. He went down low and cut up right in front of him. So he's, even though he's coming in on the low line, he goes straight back up to the high line and cuts the air off the guy in front of him.
And J.R. Hildebrand is coming. Looks like he might have something soon for the Penske's. He's right behind Will Power. We'll keep an eye on that. The battle for 3rd, 4th, and 5th has been good, and the Penske's are battling for the lead at Iowa. Watch every IndyCar on NBC race online, on tablet, and connected TV devices with the NBC Sports app. Download the app or find out more at NBCSports.com. Back at Iowa Speedway for the Iowa Corn 300. You saw it on nonstop. We had a couple of position changes, including a lead change. J.R. Hildebrand going to the front. Right before that, though, we saw Ryan Hunter-Reay started 15th. He's all the way up to 5th, and this is his latest move.
Goes inside Ed Carpenter. Nice move. Tucks in behind Ray Hall there and does such a good job here, but can't say enough for J.R. Hildebrand, Paul. That's the car, number 21, that Joseph Newgarden dominated with last year, and Ed Carpenter Racing hasn't lost a beat with that setup. He's looking very strong.
J.R. Hizzy was making some moves during the commercial break. He got both of the Penske cars. Nobody's been able to touch these two all day. Now he's leading his first laps of the year, and he has set sail. He's 2.2 seconds ahead.
And that bodes very well for the end of the race, because now we're 15 laps out from the round of pit stops, maybe 20 laps out, and if JR is that strong when things are getting tough, he's going to be really hard to beat.
And as Paul said, Hildebrand is stretching things out faster each lap. Now that last lap, Castroneves and Power were on pace with him, but more than 2.5 seconds now on Castroneves, who is trying to hold off Power, Ray Hall, and Hunter-Reay, not too far behind.
And I just spoke to Brent Harvey, the strategist for J.R. Hildebrand's car. Now, I asked him what is just so special about these Ed Carpenter racing cars around this track, and he would just said, it's just a great setup, and smiled. Wouldn't give me any more information, guys. He knows he's got a rocket ship.
And Will Power just got around Helio Castroneves for second. They're chasing that guy, J.R. Hildebrand. It's the third time he's led this year. Two big ovals, Indy and Texas, and remember, he finished third at Phoenix on the other short oval.
And looking back slowly but surely, Joseph Newgarden keeps inching up. Started 16th, he's now up to 7th. He's the guy that was behind the wheel last year with that dominant performance, and now he's starting to get the handle on his Penske Chevrolet. He could make it to the front and join his teammates here.
He's got some tough guys to pass right in front of him that are going to make it really difficult for him with Carpenter, Hunter-Reay, and Ray Hall. Those guys are using the high line, and they're going to make it tough for him to get by, but he is definitely moving forward, but he got 3 really, really tough guys to get by.
Fitzgerald Glider Kits, the sponsor, and I think the only other time he's had that this year was at Barber when he won that race. We saw Juan Pablo Montoya running that scheme, and we've also seen it in their NASCAR program for Team Penske this year.
Well, he's flying around here like a glider right now. So smooth on the throttle, really smooth line, working the high side, and Ed Carpenter appears to be struggling right now.
And coming up behind is Joseph Newgarden, and it's very interesting to me when you're the driver who dominated the previous year and you know the setup that you like, that he has not been more competitive here. I asked him how much of the Ed Carpenter setup, as he goes by his former team owner, how much of the Ed Carpenter setup is on this car and how much Penske? He said, well, we tried to go with a hybrid approach. I tried to take the things that I liked from Ed Carpenter Racing last year and incorporate it with Penske. At least when the practice started, he liked it. But right now, that hasn't translated to speed.
Well, it's tough to do that, Townsend, when you take a setup that is so good and then you try to adapt it to another setup and don't have everything as a complete package. You really can screw it all up.
Well, nothing looks wrong with the way Newgarden's performing right now. He's up to 6. He's tied with Hunter-Reay for the most positions since the start as we go on board with Hinchcliffe.
Hinch is going to make a move on Carpenter here, even though he's a little bit loose coming off the corner. I saw that wheel snap a little bit coming off of turn 2. And but he's looking at the high line to try to get a run on Ed right here.
We're into the 10 laps of terror right now, guys. This is the range where a lotion couldn't hang on. And there's another terror moment for Hinchcliffe.
That's exactly what I said the lap before. He came off a 2 and it snapped out from underneath of him, and that one was even worse. So he lost some ground to Ed.
This type of racing is so fascinating because just because you're quick at some point, as we watch 2 NTT Data Ganassi cars going at it. Dixon in the 9, Kanaan in the 10. That's a battle for 10th position. You can be good at one stint, and you can be really bad a few laps later.
And you're walking a tightrope here. If you're Tony Kanaan or Scott Dixon, you can see another car struggle, and it's so tempting to make a bold move in that moment, but you're also hanging on, and it can let go at any second on you.
He's also got to be very, very careful because he knows this is his teammate, his best buddy,
and
the championship leader, and he knows that he's got to try to help Scott as much as possible. And that's how this Ganassi team works. This team works a lot for Scott, but Tony Kanaan got by clean, but he definitely has to be careful around Scott.
At the same time, Tony Kanaan, one of the most experienced drivers in the field, he's driving for his future. Robin Miller, what do we know about Tony Kanaan for next year?
I don't know that we know anything other than we think that the NTT data sponsor is probably going to go to Scott Dixon's car, since obviously it's hard to replace Target. And Kanaan, he's just like Castroneves. He didn't want to stop, but there's not a lot of places for him to go. And when you've been with Ganassi and you've had success with Andretti, come on, you don't want to just make a lateral move or go backwards. You want to keep going forwards if you can, or at least keep the same kind of ride. I'd say, he probably needs to win a race, just like J.R. Hildebrand does. I think you win a race and people look at you and say, well, that guy's still pretty fast. Maybe we'll find a place for him.
He's chasing Simon Pagenaud now for 9th. He just got his teammate Scott Dixon for 10th, and look at that, they touched.
And that's exactly what I was talking about. You got to be really careful around your teammate. You touch that wing up against his back tire, and you could cut down Scott's tire and break your front wing. So these are the things you got to be really careful about when you're dealing with your teammate and your championship leader.
On board with James Hinchcliffe.
Something I wasn't very good at.
I was going to say, coming from the ultimate team player. Oh, good stuff. Ed Carpenter slots down into 8th now. Newgarden up to 6th.
Our Chevrolet driver update. The leader in a Chevy, J.R. Hildebrand. The top 3 are Chevys. Newgarden in 6th, and Carpenter and Pagenaud also in the top 10.
JR's.
We think we're good, but I can't stay with guys. I know.
JR's lead was almost up to 2.9 seconds when Castroneves was leading. Power has gotten by and closed that gap down to a 1.8. So Power is kind of closing the gap slowly.
We're getting close to getting to pit stop range once again, and the tires are starting to be an issue. Simon Pagenaud looking at him, and this is his radio transmission just a few minutes ago.
Leaders at 19.2s in the open. Yeah, I know, Kai, but the problem is destroying the right front at a speed that's incredible. Copy, I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying we're not losing anything, so just take your time here and we'll get through this stint. You're doing fantastic.
Now, of course, he's being coached from pit row, but what he's referring to, guys, is he has had a vibration. On the first stint, he had a vibration. What they thought was on the right front, that vibration has returned. They're coaching him, saying your speed is good, but doesn't feel so good for Pagenaud right now.
Sounds like, to me, Townsend, like they've got maybe too much toe out in the front, and if the right front is getting a vibration, it's scrubbing that inside tire, and then or scrubbing that outside tire, and just tires can almost go egg-shaped and and vibrate really bad.
They can, and sometimes you can pick up a little pickup and cause the vibration, get it out of balance. And you see guys sliding all over the place as Will Powers working traffic.
Yeah, lots of traffic to deal with here. Up front, that's the leader, J.R. Hildebrand, in the green Fuzzy's car. The silver car is Will Power in second. Helio Castroneves is third at Iowa. As you saw on Nonstop, we've just gone caution at Iowa Speedway for the second time, and it looks like there's some wing damage for Carlos Munoz, who rolls down the pit lane. J.R. Hildebrand remains up front. Then it's Will Power, Helio Castroneves, Graham Rahal, and Ryan Hunter-Reay.
See a little scuff mark there, Paul. Might have got into the wall at the exit of maybe 2 or 4.
I don't think he might have. I think he did for sure. He's up in the gray and white walled it and broke the front wing. So it's up on that high line. Just a little bit too high, but Graham Rahal's been using that line up there effectively all day. So
and that's a big enough hit to where you might want to check right side suspension.
Yeah, steering arms. Steering arm could be bent or broken. Toe link in the rear. They're going to roll it back. So it looks like something there is not right.
Askew. Look at all the concrete coming out of the wheel.
And Munoz was already running near the back. The car had not been nearly quick enough this particular weekend, and they're already 3 laps down as we continue under yellow. And the yellow once again comes as people were ready to pit. Now, we did see one under green. Takuma Sato did come in, but none of the leaders had pitted for the second time.
Yeah, that really killed him. That'll lose you 2 laps. As we saw Carlos's car, they moved it over close to the wall. The reason they did that is they're getting it out of the way because they know pit stops are coming next lap and they don't want to be in the way of everybody and working on the car at the same time. So that's a nice gesture by the 14 to just do that for these guys that are going to pit here in a second.
And we heard Pagano's anxious radio. If I'm on the box, I'm going to coach my drivers, hang in there. Someone will make a mistake, yellow will come out. Here they come.
And guys, J.R. Hildebrand was very happy with that 1 turn of front wing. He's going to add another half a turn of front wing for fresh new tires and be on his way. Katie?
And Ryan Hunter-Reay was battling some sort of tire issue during that stint, so they were debating on just how much front wing to take as you see the team going around for 1 full turn of front wing, Jan.
And for Will Power, they're debating whether and they do go for a little bit of front wing. That's a 6.7 stop. He got all the Sunoco fuel, but he loses a couple spots off the pit road.
It's Helio Castroneves getting out ahead of J.R. Hildebrand. Will Power comes out 3rd. So Castroneves picks up 2 spots on pit road. Hildebrand, Power, Hunter-Reay gains 1, Rahal, Hinchcliffe.
I'll tell you what, these Penske guys, you cannot beat their guys in the pits. They are always, Townsend, consistently about a second quicker than all the other crews. Most of the time, guys are in the 7s, 8s. These guys are consistently in the 6s.
And that's a big advantage of having that pit out location from winning the pole at the most recent race. Castroneves will be the leader when we restart at Iowa.
Red Bull Global Rallycross arrives in the racing capital of the world for the first time in series history. This weekend, we're at Lucas Oil Raceway as we make the turn into the second half of the 2017 season. These 600 horsepower supercars are battling it out for the top spots, and the chase for the championship title could not be any tighter. The fight continues right here on NBCSN straight after IndyCar, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you there.
Just about 10 minutes from my house. Wish I was there. Look forward to that after we're done tonight. Thank you, Will. Michael Andretti missing what he thinks is maybe his first IndyCar race in over 20 years. He is at Red Bull GRC. They're going to wave off the restart. Not packed up enough. They'll go one more time around.
How many times have we seen a restart waved off with Castroneves at the front of the field?
He definitely likes a fast restart and a fast start. He spreads them out, so keeps him under less pressure. Spreads the field out a little bit, allows these guys not to get too racy with him. Hunter-Reay's always ready on these restarts. Watch him; he's making a move on Will Power big time. So, but Castroneves is way out front.
By the way, Ed Jones also pitted with Sato. He is a lap down. Rolling back through it. It's Castroneves, Hildebrand, Power, Hunter-Reay, and they're dodging for positions. It's Power going to the high side for seconds.
Once again, all these guys go from hanging on and praying to being up in their seat and charging. This is the time again, making positions on fresh tires.
Hunter-Reay, Graham Rahal, Hunter-Reay, Graham Rahal, side by side, all the way around the corner. They're going to go all the way down the front straight, and Graham gets the position on Hunter-Reay.
Further back, we saw Pagano and Carpenter. Still see them side by side. The bright yellow car is on the bottom side. Ed Carpenter up top. Pagano will grab that position. That is for 8th.
Doesn't look like J.R. Hildebrand is as strong on fresh tires, but he knows if he makes it to the end of the stint, that's where he really makes his money today. Graham Rahal right up in the back of Hildebrand, and here comes Kanaan.
I think if Hildebrand's going to win this race, I think you've got to anticipate there's going to be a late caution, and you're going to need to be racy on a green-white checker type finish. So he's definitely got to get his restarts down a little bit better than that.
Wow, Ed Carpenter washing through the back of Tony Kanaan up ahead. And he's really still struggling to figure out how to get the speed that his teammate has.
Carpenter's already lost 2 spots on this restart as we watch J.R. Hildebrand in the green Fuzzies car. The yellow Gale car is Graham Rahal right behind him. They're battling for 3rd position.
Chevy has pretty much dominated this race with Penske and Carpenter up front, but Graham Rahal and Ryan Hunter-Reay have steadily been coming forward to spoil their weekend. So look for these guys in the Honda crew to maybe have a chance at winning this race. They're both pretty strong on the long run.
And just back from Rahal, there's a pretty fierce battle with Hunter-Reay trying to hold off Joseph Newgarden, who continues to press his way to the front. Newgarden working the high line there in 1 and 2. His 2 Penske teammates are up front. I think he's got the car to be there, but he's got to be smart through traffic.
Look at dominated this race last year, excuse me, Paul, and really dominated 2 years ago, finishing second.
Look at Pagenaud. He's up to eighth again. He was complaining viciously to his team manager, Kyle Moyer, on the radio how bad he was killing the tires as he's making a run on Hinchcliffe right here. So he is stabilized again. So let's see if his tires hang on for the complete run.
New tires mean everything. Fresh Firestones a couple of laps ago. Elio, the fastest lap of the race, 177.3 miles per hour. It's about a second quicker than what they were running before the stop as we go on board with Hinchcliffe, looking back to Pagenaud. Hinchcliffe in 7th.
Tony Kanaan just back there behind Pagenaud. He is well clear of his teammate Scott Dixon. It's not been a good day for Dixon at all.
And here we're riding on board with a Honda, and that's a Chevy in fierce pursuit. And I'm told from an inside engineer, team engineer today, that if you trim a Honda to the same drag level of a Chevy, you're going to lose 200 pounds in this body kit configuration, 200 pounds of downforce. But it appears to me that the Hondas have everything for the Chevys today. They're right up in the mix.
Well, these two guys right here are running 2 separate lines, low line and high line. So it's a tough for Hunter Ray.
Whoa.
You saw the air get cut off of him by Graham Rahal as Newgarden makes a run along the outside.
Newgarden can't get him that time, but he is lurking for 5th position. Hunter Ray in the yellow DHL car. The black and green car is Joseph Newgarden. Can't get him on the low side that time.
Remember at Texas how brave Joseph Newgarden was on that restart. He went 3 wide, high, and straight into the fence. He knows he's got to make smart decisions today. He's got a fast car, not even halfway yet, just at halfway, excuse me. Joseph Newgarden's going to work his way to the front as best he can.
Well, he's got to not put it in the fence like at Texas if he's going to stay in this championship. That really hurt his points. So he's got to not make a smart. He's got to make a smart decision here. Hunter Ray's been working on Rahal for probably about 80 laps and hasn't been able to find a way by.
Now J.R. Hildebrand starts to close on the 2 Penskes. As we get into the tire wear scenario, J.R. Hildebrand has the strongest car, clearly. And I think as we get deeper into this stint, he should be able to make the moves on Will Power and Castroneves.
Yeah, for sure Hildebrand's got a long run car, and it looks like the Penskes are faster in the first 20 laps. The Penskes are really quick, but then they fall off. So this Ed Carpenter car seems to have better tire longevity, and we've seen with these Penske cars, Townsend, places like Phoenix, they run into tire trouble quite often.
Well, they appear to work their right front tire pretty hard on the short ovals. They had issues last couple years at Phoenix on the right front. Saw Pagenaud complaining earlier about a right front vibration or blister.
Well, we had Juan Pablo leading here comfortably and blew a front tire and went in the wall a couple years ago. So, it could happen again.
The front 3 have checked out a little bit. That's Castroneves, Power, and Hildebrand that you can see. And then it's about 2.5 seconds before you get back to Graham Rahal, Ryan Hunter-Ray, Joseph Newgarden, and James Hinchcliffe.
Way up top, Graham Rahal. He's the highest guy on the track. Comes off a turn 2. It looks like he's going to run into the wall every time he's so high up.
But we see that in every oval with Graham Rahal. He just peels off the apex early. He demands a lot of the right front on exit, but he makes it work. And he's won that way before.
So the track temperature is down about 13 degrees from where we started. It's still 90 degrees. We've had a little bit of cloud cover. How much more racy might that make it here in the second half of this race?
I think it's good news with cooler track temperatures for guys like Ryan Hunter-Ray. I think he felt good with his race car last night. So as the race goes on, I think it favors some of the guys who've had the handling in the past races that were nice night races here at Iowa.
As you see, this is the hottest one we've had. 11th time racing at Iowa Speedway for IndyCars. This track designed by Rusty Wallace and has been a favorite in IndyCar. And we're going to see lap traffic come into play again very shortly for Castroneves and the leaders.
We're only just over halfway at 162 laps at 300, so we got a long way to go. You've seen some of the racing we've had up front, lead changes, comers and goers, guys going forward, guys going backwards. We're only halfway into this thing.
And I think, Kevin, you make a great point about track temp. We have cloud cover now, and that's going to drop the track temp quicker than any of the teams would have anticipated. They would have mapped the track temp drop based on just ambient projection, but the cloud cover is really dropping the track temp fast.
Look at that move Quickly dispatching of the lap car of Connor Daly. Castroneves going to the low side and taking no time. See how quickly Power and Hildebrand can get around Daly, who is now 3 laps off the pace.
Next up for Castroneves with lap traffic is going to be Sato, Ed Jones, and then Marco Andretti.
Now, while Castroneves is working through traffic, he got a radio call from Roger Penske saying, take care of your tires. So that's just what you want to hear when you're trying to lap cars and trying to keep a consistent pace. But you can see he's running a little bit of a higher line, and when the captain calls you and says take care of the tires, that's not just for the sake of the balance, that's for the sake of the longevity. If you're trying to work a little different strategy, if you can run a little higher, as we've mentioned, we saw Graham Rahal do the same thing, save those tires. It gives the captain more options when it's time to make a pit stop.
And Paul, that's not a suggestion, is it?
Well, that's a smart suggestion. That's from a guy who knows and seen a lot of oval racing over his lifetime, knows. And when they come in, he's seen the tires and letting Castroneves know, hey, open up your line a little bit. Don't use the tires so hard. He's had 2 stints already where it's fallen off real bad. So let's see if he can keep it hanging on all the way through this run.
Castroneves working his way through lap traffic. He leads by 0.7 of a second on Will Power. Stay with us. Non-stop fans here in Iowa. Great race fans enjoying a good one tonight at Iowa Speedway.
Welcome back to the Iowa Corn 300 live on NBCSN. You saw during that non-stop Connor Daly made contact with the wall. As you see J.R. Hildebrand, the first to pull into his pit box there. His team owner, Ed Carpenter, just has no drivability in the car. They've been putting turns into the wing. Now they're going to take him out. Jan?
And at the far end of pit lane, Castroneves and Power come in at the same time. We're going to watch the front wing to see if they make changes for Castroneves. He's been, a slight, that's more than a slight change. And he and Power get out about the same time and maintain their positions.
And Hunter Ray jumps up to 3rd, that yellow car. Then it's Hildebrand. Then it's Rahal.
Hildebrand loses 2 spots, but that's because I think they added a little front wing. Castroneves added front wing, looking for some more front downforce. There's a tipping point, though, there, Paul. If you just tip it over, all of a sudden you'll go loose.
Yep. Power here had a close moment a little bit ago. He got passed by JR. He stuffed it down the inside. JR started coming down. He whitewashed across the back of him, went up into the gray, was probably on the brakes. And then we see Connor here just go skating up the track. Barely gets into the wall, kind of rubs the wall. Ooh. Light contact. He came on the radio and said, I can't drive this thing anymore. What do you want to do?
That looks exactly like his teammate Carlos Munoz.
Yeah.
Crashing earlier.
I wasn't sure before whether Connor just brushed up and really got out of it or actually hit it. He slapped it pretty decently. So he made a pit stop under this caution, our 3rd of the day. But Charlie Kimball stayed out. Last pitted on lap 135, so he is the new leader.
Well, these guys on fresh tires and him on old tires, he is going to get absolutely swarmed. So this could cause issues for these lead guys, because Charlie is a guy that fights hard now that he's in the lead, so he's going to try to fight as hard as he can. But with the amount of laps on those tires, I don't think he might be a problem. Well, create a problem for the other guys.
He's going to try to make it on one more stop, which means he'd have to go to lap 230. So to your point, Paul, this is going to be a miserable attempt at the lead here.
Let's check in with Jan.
And while there's a lull in the action, we want to give a shout out to Dave Reininger. You can see that there is a banner up top, King Dave, longtime spotter in the series and has won the Indy 500 with both Dario Franchitti and Tony Kanaan. Very well liked in the series. He's battling cancer at the moment, and I've had multiple crew members come to me and say, just make sure that he and his wife, Laura, are aware that the IndyCar community, their thoughts and prayers are with you.
Thank you, Jan. Very friendly fellow. One of the faces we've all come to know and people we've come to know in the IndyCar community. So we're thinking of you, Dave. Hope you're watching this evening.
Something happening here with the Dale Coyne car struggling to stay under pace car speed. So
that's Ed Jones, and we're told he made a mistake on the lap down wave around. So he's going to probably just drag it around and try to correct it on track before he's penalized.
And he is crawling right now, but yeah, he's just trying to simply let the field go by. Here comes the field. the pace car, driven, I believe, again this weekend by Sarah Fisher. She's been doing it on a full-time basis. Charlie Kimball, as mentioned, did not pit. Then there's Castro Neves, the leader on the standard pitch strategy, followed by Power, Hunter-Reay, and Hildebrand.
And Charlie Kimball should be thanking Ed Jones right now, because that probably forced another lap of yellow or two, which only shortens the stint that Charlie Kimball's going to have to hang on to make it to just one more stop in this race.
I wonder if Sato did the same thing on the way around. He's going awfully slow. As we see, the guy who's made a good recovery right now is Kanaan. He's up to 7th. He was down to 14th or 15th at the beginning of the race. He's on board right here. He's made a recovery, and he's moving forward. So he's behind Rahal now and Hildebrand.
All right, we've talked about the captain. Let's hear now from the captain, Jan.
And a great run so far for Helio Castro Neves. Are you happy? We know that certainly for Charlie Kimball, he's on a different strategy, but everything seems smooth for you so far.
Yeah, it's an interesting race today. We get some good speed, and then the tires wear down, and it's very competitive. Everybody's within about 5 or 6 seconds, but Kimball's the leader. He's on a different strategy, but I think we're going to be fine here. We got a lot of guys behind him we're worried about.
You've been on the radio, and you've said to Helio, save the tires. Has that been helping you? You've been telling Helio to save the tires. Has that been working?
Yeah, we need to save the tires and be there at the end. So we got one more stop.
All right. So far, looking good for Penske and for Castro Neves at the moment.
How do you save tires on ovals?
Well, you got to open up your line. You can't dive it down at the bottom and put a lot of load in the front tire. You got to really just kind of do what Graham Rahal's been doing. It's open up the line, not use the tire as hard. So it's that's the key to keeping that front tire on.
I'm trying to sit here and figure out how the 83 Charlie Kimball can make this strategy work. Everybody's going to have to pit one more time, and on this restart, Paul, he's going to drop like a lead sinker on the older tires. So
well, I think so. I think he's going to cause a lot of problems for the guys that are on the fresh tires. I mean, we've seen some races here where we've had some late race cautions in places like Texas where guys have gone for new tires, and you're so much quicker than the guy on old tires. So.
We've had a great weekend of motorsport on NBCSN, and we'll do it all again on the NBC networks next weekend. CNBC has live coverage of Formula One, starting with the British Grand Prix Sunday morning. Then the Cup Series is in New Hampshire in the afternoon, so that shifts us to CNBC. You can actually watch us twice next Sunday from Paul's hometown, Toronto, live on CNBC, and then again here on NBCSN right after the Cup coverage. All 3 champions crowned right here on the NBC
I remember
networks.
a couple years ago when Hunter-Reay won here on a late race, fresh tires. So here we go for the restart.
In turn 3 right now. What will new Firestones do? Everyone has them behind Charlie Kimball. Kimball in the black and green car leads them back to the start. Then it's the Penske's. Castro Neves, Power looking up to the top side. Hunter-Reay and Hildebrand are also in the mix.
Like I said, Charlie's a tough guy to pass. He'll fight you very hard. Castro Neves knows he needs to make it short work of him, and hopefully he'll hold up the rest of this pack behind him. Castro Neves has a run. He makes a move down the front straightaway.
Kanaan back there got another spot. He's up to 6th. He went around Hildebrand. And now to the lead, it's Helio Castro Neves. Will Power is going to try to follow.
These guys have had history together. They don't race very well together, but Power gets by clean. Now Hunter-Reay is moving forward on the black and green car.
And this is where it's so hard for Kimball. As soon as you fall into dirty air on those old tires, it becomes twice the handful. Now he's just getting swamped. Graham Rahal, Tony Kanaan all over the back. Look at Kanaan making a move low.
That was a big-time loose on entry, and he's loose coming
Whoa,
up. There's a car on the outside. Hildebrand, a big move on the outside.
And
Here comes
Kanaan is
Newgarden.
going to lose more with Newgarden coming by. So whenever you have to lift or have any kind of moment, you lose all kinds of momentum.
He got loose on entry, and then it stepped out when he turned in, and then in the middle of the corner stepped out again as Hildebrand rounded around the outside of him.
Side by side with Hinchcliffe. Now Kanaan wants to fight back, get back up to the position that he just lost.
Cut the air off of Hinchcliffe, and as soon as he did that, you saw Hinchcliffe get loose, and look at
Charlie hanging on.
Hildebrand to the inside of Kimball. Newgarden to the inside of Kimball. Newgarden has been so strategic today, just picking one off here, one off there. Now Kimball trying to fight back, but I don't think he'll be able to.
And there's Kanaan back there. He slipped back to 8th position. And Hinchcliffe on the high side, and they go 3 wide for a moment. Hinchcliffe right in the middle is going to squeeze through. Kanaan coming back side by side. Remember this at Texas a couple of weeks ago. They were side by side. That did not work out very well.
I'm looking out the window right now, Paul, to see if it's a full moon, but I just see clouds. I don't know what's going on out there.
Weaving back and forth. They're almost touching wheels again, just like Texas. Kanaan is now clear, but Hinchcliffe is fighting him with everything he has to try to get by Tony Kanaan. He dives down the inside. Kanaan cuts the air off of him, and you see him skate right up the track as soon as he did that.
Tremendous urgency right now for a lot of these drivers to make moves happen, because as soon as you get into the tire wear, it sort of locks into position, and they only have one more stop, one more chance for a big, brave moment on fresh tires.
Pagenaud trying to get Kimball for 9th. That battle between Kanaan and Hinchcliffe was for 7th. Kanaan holds on to it for now. Well, I mentioned that battle that ended up 3 wide for a moment at Texas. If you didn't see it a month ago, this was what happened.
Teen Wolf, full moon. Kanaan down low, a low shin high, Hinchcliffe in the wall, and it just collects 5, 6, 7 cars. Ed Jones was involved, massive impact.
Kanaan survived that, finished 2nd in the race behind Will Power, who was 2nd in this race behind Helio Castroneves.
And that crash chewed up close to $3 million in IndyCar spare parts. Charlie Kimball's hanging on, just had a huge moment. Now he's fallen into the clutches of cars that are lapped down. I gotta think that it was a mistake, Paul, to not take tires on that last stop. It would put you at the back of the field if they changed their mind, but he could have come charging back through. Let's watch what happened as he works the backside of Pagenaud.
Bill, big loose on entry, so his rear tires are gone. As soon as he turned in for the corner, the back end stepped out, and that is not any fun.
We saw Marco Andretti behind him just a moment ago. Marco has fought back onto the lead lap, so he is the last car on the lead lap for the moment.
And think about this, we're only at 195. Kimball's gonna have to hold on to this mess for another 35 laps to make it on one more stop and make that strategy work.
Yeah, believe it or not, it's spitting a little bit of rain. I don't see much above us, but there actually are raindrops that are hitting on pit lane at the moment. So that could shake things up.
Well, it has changed significantly. We did not have a cloud in the sky when our broadcast began today. Now we have clouds, and there is some darkness in the clouds above the Iowa Speedway.
And now a yellow
flag. So
whoa! The memo didn't get to Hildebrand. He almost came into the back of Rahal. Yellow for moisture. Maybe that's why everybody was so urgent. Some of the teams knew that we could have rain.
So Castroneves at the yellow is the leader. Just about 2/3 of the way through. Power is 2nd. Hunter-Reay, Rahal, Hildebrand. For those of us that live in the Midwest, this is not surprising when something pops up that was not expected.
I live in California, but I think that's bad when you look at radar. Not sure if that's just kind of the light shade. If you look
No,
at
that's
the
not
legend,
necessarily that bad.
I think red is bad.
Red is bad. I think we still have a good chance of being able to get this one done.
All right, fellas, I want you to look who's in 10th place in his very first oval track race.
Yeah.
10th place. They had Ed Carpenter, Scott Dixon, Alexander Rossi. I tell you, Gutierrez is doing a hell of a job. And what can you say? Dale Coyne's team's overachieved all year, and I think this is a pretty good example of it.
Well, we haven't covered him all day. He wasn't even on our tongue, but that is an amazing job for this Formula One driver. This is his first oval race, Townsend.
And let's not forget who the race engineer is, Craig Hampson, who led the championship early on this season with Sebastian Bourdais. So that's a powerful combination.
I talked to Esteban last night. He's really enjoying this very challenging experience. Under yellow at Iowa, you're watching NBCSN's coverage of IndyCar, brought to you by Iowa Corn. Iowa corn farmers grow corn for feed, food, and fuel. And by TireRack.com. Find, deliver, install smarter Tire Rack. Well, we've had 8 winners in 10 races so far in the 2017 Verizon IndyCar Series. Sebastian Bourdais was the championship leader earlier. Good news, by the way, he's still hoping to come back before the season is over. Dale Coyne told me he'll have a 3rd car if he's available. Some of the other winners this season, and this is a story for this event today because we have some other potential drivers that have not won this season, including the leader, Helio Castroneves. Ryan Hunter-Reay runs in 3rd, J.R. Hildebrand in 5th, Tony Kanaan in 6th. All of those have not won this season. Scott Dixon, our most recent first-time winner. He's the championship leader. Was by a significant margin coming in, 34 as they run. His championship lead is just 1 on the leader, Elio Castroneves.
And during the break, these are the drivers who pitted early, and the biggest surprise for me was Joseph Newgarden, who pitted from 6th position. Jan, what do we know?
Well, let's find out what the situation is with Tim Cindric. The booth said they were somewhat surprised to take that kind of risk with Joseph Newgarden for new tires. What's the play here?
Well, I think you'll see here in a few laps that the new tires, I think, are going to be better. It's just a matter of how fast he can get through the traffic, but it's always a risk when you put him back in the traffic, but we've got 2 cars up front, and the other 2 guys will cover the back.
Now, you've been tuning the car. Has he been happy with the progression early on? Seemed like he was struggling.
Yeah, so far. I think, you know, we had too much understeer to start the race, but that's kind of what we planned. We just didn't want to go loose, and then he made his way up to 6th, 7th, 8th, somewhere in there, so we gave up 5 or 6 spots and see what happens.
All right, that 5 or 6 spots will be very interesting to see. Those new tires need to pay early, don't you think, guys?
Big time.
Well, it's spitting pretty hard. You saw the raindrops coming down there, so the track has not gotten wet yet. But some big black clouds around and big heavy raindrops.
But what this forces somebody like Joseph Newgarden to do is you're going to have to go big on this restart, and it got away from him at Texas. So he's going to have to be careful.
Paul, see if you can make contact with Graham Rahal.
Okay, let me check.
Hey, Graham, it's Paul Tracy. You there?
Hang on 1 second here, boys. We're on the wrong channel here. We're trying to get Graham Rahal's radio channel.
Trouble here in the booth. You're putting the 3 of us in charge of technology. That's not going to go well.
Well, let's try this. See if we can get Ed Carpenter. Ed Carpenter is Townsend Bell from NBC. You got me?
I got you, Townsend.
Ed, we see you. I don't hear you, but if you can hear me, Ed, what are you looking on this restart? Some guys took fresh tires behind you. You did not. Why'd you decide to stay out?
I think I was supposed to come in and miss the radio call, but I think it'll work out. Hopefully we get a long green stretch here, and you know, we'll have to do 1 more stop, and we'll be in good shape.
Your teammate JR's been looking really good on a long run. It seems like you're struggling just a bit. Were you guys able to make any changes on the last round of stops? You feel like it's coming together?
It is a little better after last stop, but it's just haven't really been able to get it where we want it. Looks like we have a weight jacker that's failed, so that's not helping, but we'll keep that on.
All right, buddy, hang in there. Good luck.
Ed Carpenter running 9th right now. We saw those, and the red flag is being displayed.
Well,
so maybe the rain is coming down harder. It's an interesting dynamic. We've seen sunshine. It's still 90 degrees, but still spitting, and the pace car is leading the field down onto pit lane, and we are going to see a red flag in just a moment. I'll say this, good for fans, because we're going to see more racing.
I don't think this is a bad call because the laps go by so quick here under yellow. I mean, you can basically take 30 laps away just waiting for these raindrops to go away. So we'll wait till everybody gets to a stop here and then see if we can get on the radio now with Graham. We've got our radio situation sorted out here. I think I'll try him right now. Hey, Graham, Paul Tracy, they just went red. Can you hear me? Graham, Paul Tracy up in the booth. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you, PT.
Well, you're pretty racy today. You've been stuck in between 3rd and 5th, and just haven't been able to bridge the gap to the front 2 guys. But you think you got something here for once track cools down with this cloud cover?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think our car is pretty racy. It doesn't have the speed, certainly of the Penske cars and of Hildebrand off the restarts, but you know, we've been able to keep up here. I think where we're good is on the really long run. The struggle is following Hunter Ray and Power and Elio all day. They've found a way to run pretty high and take away my lane there. So, you know, I'm unfortunately a bit of a one-trick pony down in 1 and 2. I can't run low, so you know, it is what it is.
Well, they're certainly not running anywhere near as high as you've been. We've been watching you a lot, and about 4 or 5 times I thought you were going to hit the wall on the exit of 1 and 2. You're up so high, but it seems like it's using the tires less, because on the long run your car seems to come on in the last 5 to 10 laps of the run.
I mean, they're not as high as me on the very, very, very exit, but that's where I have to go to try to get some air. If you try to cross the wake to the left, you're going to lose the rear end. So, they just run the high line from the entry till about 3/4 of the way through, and that's what makes it tough, because I pretty much have to hang on to the rear of the thing until they give me a little gap up there up top. But look, I mean, the Gale guys have worked awfully hard today to give us a competitive car. It's an important thing with where we are in the championship, and let's hope that nothing strange happens here with the strategy those other guys just took, and be able to finish this thing off.
All right, good luck the rest of the race.
Thanks, brother.
Well, an interesting opportunity now to really have for the team some time to talk to their driver and us to talk to the teams. John Boslog with the Penske team.
Yes, and John is in the process of talking to Will Power right now. Now, I find it interesting that they go red. In a way, that protects the strategy of those who just stopped. Because if you're running around for a long time under yellow, then all of a sudden they might creep into another strategy. How does that play from your side?
Well, we're trying to figure it out. Obviously, he's been doing a great job so far. It's not going. It certainly didn't. We didn't plan for this, and we would like to have been doing what we were doing, to this point. These guys probably, if we would have run around yellow, they probably would have been able to come in and keep getting fuel and that kind of thing. So we kind of think it helps us a little bit in terms of that. We get back green and racing, and so we'll see. Not everybody, we can't make it. Everybody can make it on one more stop from here, and the guys that came in are going to need a little help to make it as well. So we'll see. I mean, Will's been doing a great job. We've had great pit stops. He qualified well. We're just hopefully, 2 team cars up there. See how we do.
All right, a lot of discussions going on, and I can tell you, by the way, it's very dry on pit road. Katie?
And I was just joking with Ray Gosselin. He said if he had a vote, we would still be out there. But, Ray, your driver, Ryan Hunter-Reay, has charged from 15th all the way to 3rd. What changes did you make that he's so much happier today?
A lot, really. We didn't get a chance to practice with it, so kind of hoping for the best, and it's working out so far. So long way to go still.
Speaking of a long way to go, what's the plan for these last laps?
Hopefully pass the 2 guys in front of us and then pit for tires and win the thing. So pretty simple.
Well, simple, exactly, and it is a chance for you to talk to Ryan over the radio. What will you say to him during this red?
We'll just update him on what people have, because guys in the back pitted for tires, so you got to look for them coming. And then really, there's no strategy involved. Fuel's out of the equation now. It's one stop for everybody, same for everyone, so you just got to pass them. That's it.
And Anders, we'll see if Ryan Hunter-Reay can make it 4 wins today.
Yeah, I'm standing here with Brent Harvey and J.R. Hildebrand's pit. Brent, it's looking good so far, but you're a little bit weak on the initial restarts. What do you have to do here to change that?
I would just have to get a good start out of 4 here. I think we missed something a little bit on the last one. But he had a good one time before that, I think it was. So we'll just get rolling and be okay. No worries.
Any changes planned for the final stop?
Not at this point.
All right, thanks, Brent. Over to you, Robin.
All right, we're with Ricardo. And let me tell you something, Ricardo. This kid was in a sprint car race. He's been on the high line on the cushion all night. He's been the show, watching him get all the way to 3rd, starting 10th. Stay up there. That's the strategy.
Yeah, I think we've got a good car. The Gale car's been running strong. Graham's been driving a smart race as always. Honestly, he's a great racer. Just got to see how it goes. We got 4 cars ahead of us. We just got to get around, or 3 cars ahead of us, I'm sorry, and go from there,
Do you think the guys in the booth keep saying the high line's a good way to save tires? That part of the strategy?
It seems to be working for us, honestly. At the end of the stint, we seem to be really strong. I mean, he pointed out that Carpenter's been good at the restarts, or, on fresh tires, and but we always get back to him, and we think we can pass him in the longer runs. So we just need the longer runs.
All right. Thanks for your time, Kevin.
Thank you, Robin. And maybe you can hear that nice sound in the background. Engines have fired and will restart in just a couple of minutes. Stay with us from Iowa Speedway.
The Tour de France continues on NBCSN. I can tell you what I'll be doing on Tuesday, and that is watching the stages as they get back after a rest day on Monday. That much-needed rest day certainly pays. That's expected to be a sprint stage. I know a lot of drivers and myself love watching the strategy and the hard-fought racing in the Tour de France.
Jan, I also know what you'll be doing on Monday. You'll be watching today's coverage. So if you see Jan on pit lane, do not tell him what happened, nor what happened in the Formula One race. He's very good about avoiding spoilers and then binge watches when he gets home. So look forward to that on Tuesday.
I'll tell you, that Tour de France is getting pretty dirty, Paul. I saw somebody give the chrome horn there to Cavendish in the sprint to the finish.
Yeah,
it got ugly.
Big controversy. Peter Sagan was disqualified. It caused a huge stir on the internet, on Instagram, Facebook, people complaining about it because he's one of the fan favorites.
Well, as you see, cars are rolling off now, and we will get started again in just a moment. Red flag, 2:08 of 300 complete. Let's go back to the start of this race with Will Power on the front of this race. Castroneves making a move. It was Ed Carpenter who got the early jump up to third. Meanwhile, Elio Castroneves, looking for his first win in 3+ years, goes to the bottom side of his teammate, and he grabs the lead and held it for quite some time. Our first yellow came on lap 56.
And this was right at the end of the 10 laps of terror. Michaela Lotion hanging on all day and finally can't hang on anymore. Gets into the wall at the exit of turn 2, but he was okay.
Hildebrand, big run on Castroneves, dove down the inside, slid it up in front of him, took the air off of him, and he was into the lead.
AJ Foyt Racing's been struggling all day. Lap 133, this was Carlos Munoz, heavy into the wall at the exit of turn 4. And then on lap 169, here's what happened with JR Hildebrand. Will Power trailing, gets into the dirty air and washes up and almost crashes.
A carbon copy of Munoz's teammate Connor Daly brushes the wall, and then we had some big raindrops, so instead of running under yellow, we decided to stop here, and we're going green again, guys.
Back at it with Castroneves, Power, Hunter-Reay, Rahal, and then Hildebrand looking to the bottom side, trying to grab 4th position over Rahal. Can't get it done right there.
Hildebrand had a bad stop. He lost a couple positions. They can't afford that on this last stop. They're going to have to nail one. They can't afford to lose 2 or 3 positions on the final stop with only 40, 50 laps to go. So look at these two guys, the full moon. These two guys are at it again, Townsend.
Further back, it was 3 wide as the cars that elected to take fresh tires are pushing hard. There's Joseph Newgarden making a move on Carpenter.
And in front of them in his first oval race ever is Esteban Gutierrez running in 8th position. That's Newgarden going to the bottom side of his former boss and getting around Ed Carpenter. And that is for 9th.
Tell you what, Gutierrez is holding his own right behind a guy who's got so much experience, Tony Kanaan. The best thing for him to do is just sit there and watch and try to stay in your position, because this is a phenomenal race for him.
There we see Newgarden going around Gutierrez, now up to 8th position. So Joseph Newgarden knows he needs to make moves now.
Well, that's fresh
while the
tires
are prime.
Yeah, fresh tires against used tires. So these two guys, again, like Texas, they are tied together and they have some history together. So watch these two guys fight as Newgarden closed the gap on them immediately on those fresh tires.
Already up 4 positions to 8th. Now working on Kanaan for 7th. But Kanaan is going to take a look to the bottom side of the aero car of James Hinchcliffe.
He pushes up. He got some aero push.
Nice
Newgarden
run.
got a nice run, so he'll dive down the inside. Man, I think that was a good call by Cindric to take those tires. Look at how loose Tony Kanaan is.
Newgarden was in 6th position when they pitted him off strategy for fresh tires. He's now up to 7th. One more position, he'll be back to par with 25 lap fresher tires on the top 5 cars.
And with Kanaan, you also see what happens when you attempt to make a pass and it doesn't work. You lose all your momentum, and then you likely lose positions.
The only guy that's been able to make this work, Townsend, is Newgarden, because everybody else, Pagenaud, everybody else that came in with him has really not been able to do anything with the traffic.
But the problem here is you're pressing very hard if you're Joseph Newgarden, and you're actually going to wear the tires a little quicker because you're trying to force it in the moment. He almost has Hinchcliffe there. They'll be side by side down in turn 3. There goes Newgarden. Now further back, Scott Dixon is struggling to make those fresh tires work. He's sitting in 13th position and hasn't been able to charge through like Newgarden just did.
Well, he's been in 12th to 13th the whole race from the start. He has not even made any progression at all. He hasn't fallen any further back, but he's really gone nowhere other than 11th, 12th, and 13th the whole race in this NTT Ganassi car.
Look at the championship. I mentioned this earlier. Points as they run. It was 34 coming in. Now it's within 1 as Castroneves leads. Dixon trying to work on Ed Carpenter. One of the others that picked up new tires on that stop, Simon Pagenaud, has picked up 4 spots. He's running 10th.
You're talking about Scott Dixon. I spoke with Mike Hull who of course is on the radio to Scott Dixon during the break. He said they're struggling with a loose car, in that in the early part of the stint the car is very loose, but if they tell Scott to wear out the front tires, then he gets the car fairly neutral. So he actually tries to work out the right front tire to take some grip out of it, and then he gets his balance back.
And how you do that, Townsend, you drive into the corner, you just oversteer on the front tire, you jerk the front wheel down and force a push into the car. So,
but you can't do that on entry trailing off the throttle. You have to crack the power just slightly, get the weight on the back, and then put the steering wheel in. It's very, very tricky, and only a guy like Scott Dixon with the experience knows how to do that.
One more spot for Simon Pagenaud, now +5 since the restart, goes around the former Formula One driver Esteban Gutierrez to get into 9th.
Gutierrez still hanging in the top 10. Rossi recovering now with that slightly different strategy. He's up to 11th. He was down in 14th, 15th the whole race long, so he's closing in on those fresh tires on Gutierrez.
Meanwhile, up front, 0.7 of a second is the lead for Helio Castroneves. Looking for his first win in 3+ years. Can he get it done here this evening? Will Power second, Hunter-Reay, Rahal, and Hildebrand. And here's Gutierrez from Twitter with some thoughts, and he has had a great attitude. He's been fun to have around.
And that was after his first day testing here at Iowa. Big respect for these folks, and he's showing big respect for the conditions today. Hasn't made any mistakes, taking everything he learned earlier in the race and applying it for later on.
He said he loves how technical you have to be, how much you can help with the car and help your lap. It doesn't seem like it. Seems like it's an engineering exercise, but there's clearly much more to it.
Kanaan has closed back in on Hinchcliffe. Newgarden has got by these guys and just taken off down the road as we see the fresh tires of Pagenaud now as he's going to try to make a move around the outside of Kanaan.
Oh.
Kanaan moving around, very similar like Texas. His car darts around a lot, so over-under for Simon Pagenaud there.
Remember it, Texas, strong words. There's Pagenaud.
He didn't like that little move over hip check going into turn 1, and then he had to cross him over, so he's like, gave him a salute like, hey, what's up, man?
Kanaan had the ire of the whole IndyCar field after the Texas race. I remember Hinchcliffe's quote. I loved Ganassi. Chip Ganassi had criticized Hinchcliffe. Hinchcliffe said, that's adorable. That's Simon Pagenaud expressing his adoration for Tony Kanaan.
One-handed driving at nearly 180 miles per hour on less than a 1-mile track.
I keep watching the lap times, Kevin, for Joseph Newgarden to see if that fresh tire advantage is paying off. Right now, I'm not seeing much of a dent being put into J.R. Hildebrand as Pagenaud goes to the inside.
Pagenaud's also got those fresh Firestones, and he's working his way up through the field. Now in 7th, Newgarden is the next target.
Newgarden's way up the road on Pagenaud now. He was much quicker on the restart and getting through some traffic. But how about this guy, Helio Castroneves? He's been lots of pole positions, but he's kind of gone backwards in the races. But today, he's been at the front the whole race long. So is this the day that you finally break through, Townsend? It's almost like winning your first race again. When you go this long without winning a race, you have to start questioning yourself. Is it ever going to happen again? Can I win a race? Am I too old? You know,
well, especially
if he gets this win today, I think it'll open the floodgates again for him with more wins.
I agree, and he's done just such a good job, Paul, the last couple of years to get himself fast again. When Will Power showed up on this team 5 or 6 years ago, it really put a shadow on Castroneves. He doubled down, he worked extra hard, he studied the data, and now he's as fast as anybody on his team or in the field for that matter. And I have to think that all those rumors of the sports car opportunity or maybe the sports car decision Roger Penske's going to make for him is giving him extra motivation today.
Well, I'll tell you what, for him to leave the series, even though he is the oldest guy, it will be a huge blow to the series, a big hit in terms. He is unquestionably the most popular driver in IndyCar racing and the most recognizable at this time and the most fan-friendly of any of the drivers out there.
And put me on the list of fans that wants to see Helio Castroneves continue full-time. And to clear up the speculation isn't necessarily that they think that Helio is done. It's more possibly a matter of maybe we only want to run 3 cars in IndyCar and we might need a big-name star to help anchor along with Juan Pablo Montoya, the new sports car program.
It'll be a hard decision to make. Right now, he's the championship leader, and if he finishes this season and wins the championship, pretty hard to take him out and move him into sports cars.
Well, I believe that if he did go to sports cars, I can't believe we wouldn't see Castro Neves at the Indy 500 for many years to come. That was Graham Rahal sticking a nose in on Hunter Ray, had to back out, and he's going to pay for it here as J.R. Hildebrand makes a position. That's for 4th.
Hildebrand not really moving forward like he was in the beginning of the race. This is laps are winding down here quite quickly.
And look, guys, at that black Penske car, that's Joseph Newgarden, has now caught up to Graham Rahal and J.R. Hildebrand.
So right now we know tires are everything now at this stage of the race. Fresh tires, whether you've done 5 or 10 laps, fresh tires are everything.
And the other thing for Newgarden that I like with the strategy, guys, is that this allows him to go much deeper for the final stop, which is insurance against pitting under green. Some of these other cars, like your leaders, they're going to have to stop earlier, and if they're forced to stop under green and Newgarden can stretch it and catch a yellow, that's going to be huge.
Well, we've seen a yellow at the end of every stint. As you see, Graham Rahal comes back on J.R. Hildebrand and slices down the inside. He slides up the track, washes it out in front of him. So that was a tough pass there.
Meanwhile, up front, Castro Neves continues to expand his lead, almost 3 seconds now on Will Power. Another 3 or 4 tenths back to Ryan Hunter-Reay. Will this be the day for Helio Castroneves? Swirling rumors about his future, wants to put it back in victory lane and might have the car to do it at Iowa tonight. Nearing 50 laps remaining at Iowa Speedway. Anytime you pit, it will be the last pit stop of this 300-lap event. The Iowa Corn 300. Thanks for joining us on NBCSN with Townsend Bell, Paul Tracy, Jan Beekes, Katie Hargett, Anders Krohn, and Robin Miller. I'm Kevin Lee. A lot of side-by-side action as we continue with Scott Dixon going to the low side of James Hinchcliffe.
James Hinchcliffe does not want to give it up, but this is the situation as we just saw. We saw J.R. Hildebrand pit early. If a crash happens, he's 2 laps behind.
He's toast under that situation. Now, Scott Dixon has about 25 laps further he can go than James Hinchcliffe. So now with that pass right there, Scott Dixon has the opportunity to close with Joseph Newgarden, who's on the same strategy, and Simon Pagenaud. So Scott Dixon 6 seconds back right now, but he's got clean air.
These two guys have been tied together the whole race long. Ryan Hunter-Reay and Graham Rahal. They've been racing basically since the green flag. Castro Neves has a commanding lead, the biggest lead of anybody in the race at almost 3 seconds right now. His car is working very well. He's taken that advice from Rogers, save your tires, don't use them hard, and it's paying off as we see the Ed Carpenter come in for his stop.
Little trouble with the left front tires. Ed Carpenter's off and away. Your leader, Castro Neves, is on pit lane.
So we've seen both of the Ed Carpenter racing cars make their stop. First Hildebrand, then Carpenter. Here comes Castro Neves, and that's Hunter-Reay coming right behind him. Also Hinchcliffe getting set to pit.
Castro Neves is taking his sticker Firestones and Sunoco, and we do not expect any changes, no changes up front. That's a quick one, but the time from when it was dropped off to Jax to when he left, he definitely lost some time.
Well, it was still an 8-second stop, so it was slower than their normal stuff, but still quicker than Hunter-Reay.
And we have Tony Kanaan coming into the pits. He's going to put 4 fresh tires on. No change to the front wing plan there on that 10 car.
Graham Rahal also going to stop on the same lap that we'll see Will Power also. So we'll watch multiple stops as Will Power makes his way on. Graham Rahal has been happy with this car. He has been tuning it. And again, we've seen him running the high line to try and maintain that tire life. Will Power has the long drive down at 50 miles per hour to his pit box. Now, anytime you go a lap longer, theoretically, if you have a really good in-lap, you might be able to make up a position. Now, we know that Castro Neves was over 8 seconds. So can Will Power get less than 8 seconds? Oh yeah, that's 6 seconds. So theoretically, he should pick up track position with that one.
Only needed 43 laps of fuel did Will Power to make it to the end as Hunter-Reay goes racing by.
The guy right now who's your leader is Simon Pagenaud, who was on the radio with his team saying his car was handling terrible. as he peels off and comes to the pit lane. Now Dixon is your leader.
I'm really surprised Joseph Newgarden came to pit lane as well. These guys pitting a little earlier than I would have thought.
Simon Pagenaud now making his stop, and I agree with you, Townsend. Very strange to see that Joseph Newgarden chose that lap to pit. Behind him, you can see the front wing change for Simon Pagenaud and the stop for Scott Dixon.
Now, meanwhile, J.R. Hildebrand, of those that have pitted, is in front of Helio Castroneves. Let's go back and look at Joseph Newgarden's stop.
Looked like a nice clean stop for Newgarden. The reason I was surprised is if you stay out, you might get lucky with the yellow and put the whole field a lap down.
A little bit of front wing on the right front wing of watch these two Ganassi cars go by each other here. Chilton was leading for a slight moment.
I'm guessing that Tim Cindric and Newgarden decided it would be better to be on the same tire strategy as far as not losing time with older tires. Get in and get them. But you're right. That's one other play. Here's Chilton pitting.
And right now, we show Hildebrand ahead of Castroneves on track, which is really a big move.
All this cycle right now, I think Hildebrand's going to come out the leader because right now he's ahead of Castroneves. So Kimball and Andretti are the effective leaders right now. But Jan?
And yes, why we watch Max is stop here as well, Max Chilton. I do agree. I think that slightly slower stop, and you can see even Max Chilton, they're pulling off some very fast stops here when they don't need necessarily all the fuel. Castroneves should lose a bit because he was slightly delayed on exit.
And there is the effective leader of the race. He's going to get around Charlie Kimball, who has not made his stop yet. But there's Helio Castroneves. Can he use the Kimball pick to get back in front? This is essentially a battle for the lead, and now it will be. Hildebrand to the bottom side.
Castroneves backed off of that. He saw some danger and backed off of it. He had a run at him. Charlie peels it off to the pit lane. But Hildebrand's got a little bit of breathing room. He had some traffic there, Townsend, but now is the time that he has got to hang on till the end of the race. He's got the clear road ahead. He's got to use this traffic and use it the right way and keep this 42-year-old behind him.
That was the move, I believe, for JR to win this race. He had to be bold. He needed to do something and take a risk to get around Kimball because he has the strongest car over a long stint.
Marco Andretti is officially the leader, but effectively it's J.R. Hildebrand. Marco will be pitting very soon.
Helio Castroneves' car looks really strong right now. He's able to pull right back up on the back as JR goes around Gutierrez. But right now we've got Rossi right there in front of Hildebrand. So there's got some traffic right here with these Andretti cars.
And Paul, I think Castroneves has to push right now. He can't afford to let Hildebrand get away on a long run.
He just got the nose. He got the nose chopped off of him from Rossi. He went down the inside, and that was just bad timings. He went down the inside of Rossi, and Rossi turned in on him, and that really cost him.
Marco Andretti up ahead.
But he's coming back.
Marco's on old tires.
And Castroneves goes around Andretti, and he's back in front. Hildebrand will move to second. They've been dealing with lap traffic, and Helio back to the front, looking to win for the first time in over 3 years, and he has no more stops to go.
JR Hildebrand's got to regroup now. He has the car for the long run. He just needs to slot back in. Now we've got Newgarden pushing Graham Rahal.
Rossi does not want to go a lap down. He's going to make it really hard.
Graham Rahal almost in the fence.
Running in 6th right now, and that's going to allow Newgarden an opportunity. That's Newgarden coming on the low side. A little wiggle for him. Can't get him right there. Working their way around Ed Jones. Down multiple laps. And up front, Castroneves up by 8/10.
He still can't get by Rossi, so Rossi's making this really, really hard work to stay on the lead lap, because if it goes yellow, Castroneves gets a nice run here, but he definitely made it hard work for him.
Castroneves is really gapping Hildebrand well here. He's built over a second lead, almost a second and a half now.
What a story this would be for Helio Castroneves. We thought maybe 2 weeks ago it would be his weekend at Road America, starting on the pole for the 50th time with a quick car and quick teammates all weekend. Here, we felt it would also be a strong opportunity for Team Penske. So many other contenders, and Castroneves is now up by 1.3 seconds on J.R. Hildebrand. Another 3 seconds back to Ryan Hunter-Reay, and Will Power, who was battling Elio all race, is now 5 seconds back in fourth.
I'm amazed right now with the tension building, Townsend, that the guys are getting more frantic, their passes are getting more aggressive. We haven't had any cars crash into each other, and I would not be surprised if there's a late race yellow where somebody gets together with somebody and maybe make a shootout for the end of this race.
On board with Ed Carpenter trying to hold off Ryan Hunter-Reay. Look at Hunter-Reay's trying everything. Coming in high, crossing over low, trying to find some clean air. Where's the grip?
And Ed Carpenter, after challenging up front early in the race, is now a lap down, so that's not for position. Hunter-Reay runs in third.
6 second stop for Power, really lost in positions. It's hard to believe he had a 2 second pit stop advantage on Castroneves, but came out in fourth place.
There's Will Power, a contender much of the race, but he's losing ground to his teammate Castroneves, now 5.5 seconds back. Here's Newgarden still working on Graham Rahal in the yellow car.
I think that's Graham Rahal yelling at the slower car of, I think that's Ed Jones in front of him. Gutierrez, excuse me. I think that's what Graham's wanting, is for Gutierrez to move out of the way. The officials will use the blue flag with 20 laps to go to move traffic out of the way.
There's Marco Andretti making that final stop. He led for a little while off sequence before Castroneves and the others got by him.
Yeah, I think the problem for Graham, it's like he said himself, he's a one-trick pony. He's only got one line on the track, and that's the super high line, and the cars come up to the wall on the exit and cut off his air, and he can't get a run on these guys.
That is Gutierrez right in front of Graham Rahal as Newgarden looks down to the bottom side. Will he try to use a pick? Will Power, fourth place, not too far in front. Rahal taking a peek. Can't get by Gutierrez, 1 lap down.
See Rahal, as soon as he tries the bottom line, Townsend, he just really got nothing.
Well, he's pushing as hard as he can. He knows that he has a strong car, but if he can't get past lap traffic, he just can't factor, and he's losing time with every lap, currently 7 seconds back of the leader, Castroneves.
So you look at length of time between wins. Elio Castroneves, third on that list, 54 races since his last win. It was at Belle Isle in Detroit in 2014. Since that time, he's finished second 8 times, 13 times on the podium. Will this be the day? And it would also move him right on the brink of Scott Dixon in the championship. The only thing that's eluded him in his illustrious career. Right now, he is 6 back, and there would be 6 races to play.
Right now, Scott Dixon is the points leader by 1 point over Elio Castroneves. So Scott Dixon is somewhat recovered from early in the race, right currently 9th. But he's hanging on to his point lead by 1 point as we see Hunter-Reay slices down in front of Ed Carpenter.
And that puts Ed Carpenter a lap down. Hunter-Reay in third. Hildebrand's about 4 seconds up the road.
And how fortunes have changed for Ed Carpenter. So strong. But we heard that radio transmission early. I know it looks like I'm pretty good, but I just can't keep up with anybody. And he's a lap down.
Watching the gap between Castroneves and Hildebrand, it was 2 seconds. Now it's down to 1.6. So Castroneves trying to work lap traffic, having a little trouble with Charlie Kimball there. And there's Hildebrand with Rossi, I believe, in between.
It is far from over because, as we have seen, things change so much throughout a stint. You've got lap traffic to deal with. If we have a yellow, everything starts. But what do you call it, the 10 laps of terror?
Yeah.
We're going to get towards the later stages.
Well, if you had a yellow right now, I think the 10 cars on the lead lap, several of them would consider taking tires because lap traffic will get shuffled to the back. JR doing everything he can. That gap's now grown back to 2.2 seconds. So Castroneves looks pretty untouchable in clean air.
We have a late race yellow, Townsend. I think everybody would take tires. We've already seen how effective they are, so I don't think you could gamble on not taking tires.
That's what Helio Castroneves does not want to see. You do not want to take a chance on giving up track position. If I see the leader pit, I think I'm probably going to do the opposite if I'm behind him.
Unless you're the 10th car on the lead lap and you're going to go to the lead with track position, I might take that gamble. As Hinchcliffe working hard on the back of Scott Dixon, that's for 9th.
Scott Dixon needs to hang on to this position because if he loses this spot, it's going to give up the points lead. So he's going to fight as hard as he can, and I will guarantee you he knows that from his team that he has to hang on to this position to keep the points lead.
Hinchcliffe with a little bit of run on Dixon.
Dixon running high, leaving clean air low, so Hinchcliffe just kind of runs it in hard, takes the low line, and then just deals with it middle off the corner.
Inside 10 to go at Iowa Speedway. Helio Castroneves continues to stretch his lead by more than 3 seconds now. Team Penske also poised potentially for their first win at Iowa Speedway.
If he gets across the line with the checkered flags, there's going to be a lot of tears flowing out of the eyes of Castroneves, and you can guarantee he'll run straight for the fence. So let's hope he can hold it together here for the next 8 laps.
Well, it'll be well earned. He's driven flawlessly today. That track temperature now down to 107 degrees. It's cooling fast, and it really seems to advantage Castroneves. He's going faster and faster than Hildebrand in second position.
Cars are spread out now for him. He doesn't have a lot of traffic, so he can take his time. He's got a nice gap built up, almost 4 seconds now, and he doesn't have a lot of traffic, like I said, so he can afford to take his time now and not make any mistakes.
Helio Castroneves has led well over 2/3 of this race. 211 laps led today. We saw a similar beatdown by Joseph Newgarden, even more so last year. James Hinchcliffe led well over 200 laps back in his win in 2013 here.
Just watching those bright red gloves from Castroneves, the car looks very well balanced, a lot of precision in the hands, just driving to the limit of the front tires, not trying to force anything as Roger Penske looks on.
I'm looking at the times right now. He's got Andretti in front of him. Andretti's running a 19.1 and Castroneves a 19.5, so he really doesn't even have to pass him. He's got a big healthy lead now. It's down to 3.2 from 3.9, but he doesn't really have to push the issue now because the pace is kind of evened out for everybody.
3.5 laps to go for Helio Castroneves. That's J.R. Hildebrand, more than 3 seconds behind. Under 3 now for Spider-Man.
You know, ever since Penske asked him to conserve tires, he's been working the high line, staying off the bottom, giving the tires a break with the longer radius, and it's really paid off.
I think this win will mean a lot for Roger Penske, too. He and Helio have a very special relationship. They've worked together for so many years. And Castroneves is a lap and a half away from breaking the drought.
His lead now at 4 seconds over second place.
And we're poised for our 9th different winner of the season. Graham Rahal and Joseph Newgarden are still going at it for 5th position. White flag for Helio Castroneves. Under a mile to go to win for the 30th time in his career. On the backstretch, J.R. Hildebrand is nearly 4 seconds in arrears. Castroneves, 2 more turns to go. Checkered flag, win number 30. It snaps a more than 3-year drought. And Castroneves squarely is in the championship hunt.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to climb the fence. It's been a long time. Woo! Great drive, Helio. Hell of a job, guys. Great job. You dominated them today, bud.
217 laps led, and Helio Castroneves wins for the first time since 2014.
Wonder if he can remember how to climb.
Well, I think he can remember how to climb, and like I said earlier in the race, I think this is going to open the floodgates again for him to start winning again, because like I said, when you go a long time, you start to question whether you can get the job done anymore, and he certainly got it done today. His team said you dominated. I would expect him, it's going to be a showdown between him and Dixon the rest of the year.
The championship difference is 8 points right now, but that's not on the mind of Helio Castroneves. It's winning for the first time in 3 years. Listen to the crowd.
Well, he said on the radio the one thing he wanted to do was find a fence to climb, and it is the first time since Detroit 2014 that he's had that opportunity, hugging the Penske car for the first Penske win here at Iowa. Helio, we'll let you get your helmet off here, but we are dying to get your thoughts on finally making it here and climbing that fence.
I wasn't young as I used to be. I tell you what a car. Hitachi Chevy was unbelievable. Oh my goodness. What a great car, what a great team. What can I say, man? what a race, I'm speechless. I want to thank obviously RP and those guys, Cindric, and my engineer, my group number 3, and my teammates, man, because we are working so hard together. But Hitachi Chevy was running, man, on rails. I mean, I'm talking about foot on the outside. We had a little bit of issue in the beginning, but after we set up the car, it's great. What a great feeling. It's just like the first time, man. Oh, man, this is awesome. Woo.
Just before the start of the race, there was speculation. You were asked about your future, and your answer was, what I need to do is win today and then win the championship. When you said that, did you think you had this good of a shot?
Listen, we've been close so many times, and finally our luck was a little bit on our side. We didn't have a problem with the yellow. Car was on it. You know, everything what happened behind the scene is behind the scene. I'm just so honored to be part of this organization. A great group of guys. So now, TC, all the Penske drivers won, man. That's for you, man. But it was awesome.
Now, it's a big day for the team as well. Obviously, you talk about each one of the drivers having a win. I know how emotional you are, but for a team like Penske, here come the teammates, Simon Pagenaud. This is a close-knit crew. They know how long it's been for Helio, and they knew this day would come at some point. I do have to ask you, we knew this day would come at some point, but did you? Did you start to doubt whether you'd have another win?
Oh no, I never doubt. That's actually not even in my thoughts, especially with those guys. I have to say, great support and special team Penske. They never gave up on me, and we've been always there. We were always good, and I'm glad RP is back. Great strategy, and man, what a day, guys! I'm telling you, this is like so cool. It's like I'm winning for the first time. Oh boy, this is amazing. I just want to thank the Lord, obviously, to give me strength, to give me power, and but I have to thank the team. And Hitachi's car was so on rails today. It's not about, believe it or not believing. It's about having everything happens on the right time. We didn't put a wheel wrong, even through traffic. We didn't panic when the car was a little bad. I tell you guys, we gotta keep digging. Let's keep working on it.
All right, his 30th win, go celebrate. He's done a lot of that already. Robin?
Well, RP, you finally won at Iowa, and you did it with an old man.
Well, I'll tell you, I think this is our 11th or 12th time. These guys have been real tough on us here, but to see that run that Helio made all day long, I think he controlled the race. We had very good pit stops. You could see that, but, you got to have reliability, and you got to have a guy behind the wheel that knows how to climb the fence.
Here's the thing. I wrote a story yesterday that said you might be going back to 3 cars next year, and he may be a full-time sports car driver. And he said at the end of our interview, the only way I can keep my job is to win the championship. Would that be a tough decision?
Well, I don't know about that. I think that there's a lot of speculation on what's going on here. Look, we got a big season to finish here, and we all normally announce our season at the beginning of it, not in the end.
Right. But he's only 1 point out of the lead right now.
That's terrific. I know that Scott didn't have the day he wanted, but he's going to be awful tough. And great to see all 4 cars compete the way they did today. Good racing out there. Courtesies there when you had to, and you're passing cars a lap down. And thought the officials did a good job putting that red flag out.
Well, we're glad to see you back, because the big rumor in Elkhart Lake was you were buying a country or something, and you weren't there, so everybody was nervous.
No, I was at the America's Cup thinking about building a boat.
All right, Anders, Roger Penske wins at Iowa for the first time.
All right, and J.R. Hildebrand, it wasn't a win for you today, but you equaled your best result in the 2011 Indy 500. How's this result feel?
Yeah, it feels good. I mean, I definitely think under some slightly different circumstances, we had a car to win out there. Guys made a great call to pit early and then get out in the lead at the end and try to just hustle all the way. I think, you know, if we had been on kind of equal tires with Elio, we might have had something for him there at the end. But, you know, all in all, just really excited for the Fuzzy's Vodka crew to get on the podium here again. They definitely deserved it after the weekend that we've had. And, you know, hopefully this can get us kicked off for kind of the stretch run going into the rest of the year.
All right, thanks so much. Over to you, Kevin.
All right, what a story today. What a show. Elio Castroneves back in victory lane for the 30th time, and he surpasses Rick Mears on the all-time win list. You're watching NBCSN's coverage of IndyCar, brought to you by Honda, an official vehicle of the Verizon IndyCar Series, and by Pengrade Motor Oil. Make the grade. Elio Castroneves is still working his way to victory lane. Celebration just paused for a moment, and it will resume here at Iowa Speedway. Don't forget, right after we're done, we're going to Indianapolis for Red Bull Global Rallycross. GRC coming up right after we're done, just after 8 o'clock Eastern here on NBCSN. Back to Jan.
And the championship point leader still remains the championship point leader, and that pass at the end with Tony Kanaan was helpful. That was another 2 points. You now lead by 8. So good damage control today?
Yeah, it kind of was. You know, we really struggled. The NTT data car, we were just so loose, especially on the restarts. And about 25, 30 laps into a run, we could beat up the right front a little bit and actually then start carrying some speed, but I could only run the high line. As soon as I got on the bottom, I just, you know, almost spin out. So trying to pass traffic was, you know, was really tough. But yeah, it was, you know, a fun race. Physically very difficult, I thought, just because I think our car was so neutral. I was fighting it all day.
All right, thank you, Scott. Maintains the championship point lead, Katie.
And Ryan Hunter-Reay charged his way all the way from 15th to a podium finish. Ryan, you weren't very happy when I talked to you yesterday. What changes did you make that made it work today?
A ton. You know, credit to this team and to the engineering department for making the right calls. When I got here, it was so loose. It was very uncomfortable to drive. We made some changes. We only had about an hour and 15, hour and a half of practice, and we made the most of the time, made the right changes for warm-up, and then again made the right changes for the race. Started with 2 little front wings, so I was dealing with a lot of understeer all race, but finally towards the end, we got it dialed in there, and it was where I had the car that I needed finally. Just wish I had a few more stints at it, but it was fun. Great to be back on the podium. Happy for DHL, Andretti Autosport, and especially this 28 crew. We've had a lot of misfortune this year, and you know, but we have 2 or 3 podiums now, so we just need the momentum to get going, and that's most important.
Kevin Ryan said it. They've had a lot of misfortune, but he said earlier, this feels like a win.
And he's equaled his best finish of the season, including the Indianapolis 500. We've still got plenty more to go as we watch Elio Castroneves climb out and celebrate a win at Iowa. A reminder, if you're looking for Red Bull GRC, it's coming up in just a few minutes from Indianapolis. Now more on today's Iowa Corn 300. Here's Anders Krohn.
Yeah, and Kevin, it was a frustrating day here for Graham Rahal. We heard you on the radio screaming there at the end of the race. What was going on?
Well, man, I just thought, you know, I'll just say that I think the courtesy from guys laps down has been poor as of late. And, you know, we talked about it in our drivers-only meetings, and everybody said they'd improve, and thought today was awful. But, you know, look, I'm really proud of the Gale team, number 15 car. I wanted to win today, you know, so I'm disappointed with 5th, which is a good thing, right? I mean, we had a good day, solid run, good points. We'd have liked to gain on Will and Elio. I actually felt I had a car that was equally as good as theirs. It just, the track position became hard behind, as I said on the radio actually during the broadcast, under that red, you know, the guys just kept moving up, which is fine. That's their right to choose a lane, but that was kind of where I was comfortable. And so we lost some space there. But, the guys did a great job. We just got to keep our heads down. We're going to Toronto. We know what happened in Detroit, so hopefully, that setup will translate well, and we'll have a good race. But, yeah, I mean, disappointed with 5th, but overall a great day, and I think that's 4 really solid finishes in a row, so we just got to keep this going.
All right, well, we love riding on board with his helmet cams. On to you, Jan.
Yes, and of course he had a bit of a dust-up with Joseph Newgarden there at the very end. You made some contact with Wall. What happened between you and Graham?
Oh, well, we were racing towards the end, and, I would choose one lane, and he'd want to wash up into my lane, so I ended up getting a lot of dirty wake on the final corner and washing into the wall. So, sort of a racing deal, I guess, but, it's that lane integrity thing where you just got to be careful sometimes. We were on the end of the tires. We were both running hard, so we just didn't have enough to get by. We were working pretty hard on Gutierrez and couldn't get him either, so just not what we needed today.
You mentioned tires. You were on a different strategy there for a while with new tires. You got back up to 6, but then what happened? You actually stopped with the rest of the leaders at that point.
Yeah, I think, we didn't have a good balance on that set. It hurt us. We were good in the beginning, and then we lost it about halfway through the stint. We had made a change for that run, and it didn't work out. But today was a lot about track position, I think. It was difficult to move through the field, and not many people were able to move all the way to the front. So I think we would have started up higher. Would have been an easier day. But still a good weekend for Team Penske. It's great to get Elio a win, and I was happy to have Fitzgerald back in the car. They were with me for my first win. So we'll move on to the next one, try and get a better job done.
All right, thank you, Joseph. Kevin?
Thank you, Jan. So Scott Dixon, they're signing autographs in the background. Well, the day, though, belonged to Elio Castroneves, celebrating his first win in over 3 years. More to come from Iowa. The podium celebration is underway at Iowa Speedway. Red Bull GRC from Indy is coming up in just a moment. Elio Castroneves on the top step for the 30th time, his 15th season with a win and his 18th season with Team Penske. What a show we saw today, guys.
I tell you what, guys, Castroneves said he needed a win to decide what his future could be. And I'll tell you, these 2 other guys on the podium, Hunter Ray needed a good result, and J.R. Hildebrand also needed a good result. So a very well-deserved podium.
Slice of happiness for all there.
9th different winner this season in 11 races. And Elio now is within 1 of Paul Tracy and Will Power for the all-time win list. And here's how they finish up today.
And look at those 4 Penske drivers finish strong. They moved to 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th in points with Dixon leading. So the Penske freight train making the run down the final stretch.
Tony Kanaan and Scott Dixon swapped positions to help Dixon in the points. Ed Carpenter was good all day, and then for some reason we don't know, he fell backwards in the last stint. But Gutierrez, what a run by him in the coin car. Amazing finish for him in his rookie race.
That's what I was talking about with the Penske guys stacked there. And how about Graham Rahal, a 1-car team hanging on to the big boys with arguably a great shot at Toronto, as he mentioned, trying to back up the Detroit double wins.
Will Power picks up some points. Of note, it's 54 points available in a race weekend. He is 53 back. Also should point out that Elio Castroneves now 12th alone all-time along with Paul and Will Power. Dario Franchitti has 31 career wins. We're off to Toronto next weekend, 3 o'clock on CNBC with a re-air right after the Cup race on NBCSN next Sunday afternoon. Well, a very significant day today at Iowa Speedway. Team Penske had never won. More notable, Elio Castroneves, one of the all-time greats, had not won in 3+ years. He got the lead early on his teammate Will Power and led 217 laps, giving the captain his first win at Iowa. And we see Castroneves climb the fence for the first time since Detroit in 2014. The party will continue. Thanks for joining us from Iowa Speedway, and congratulations to Elio Castroneves.